At, is that the right time?
A little after 7:30.
Okay, 7:38, looks like. Okay. First on the agenda, Lou Petrozzi.
I don't think Mr. Petrozzi is
Oh,
coming,
I
but
don't-
maybe Bob can fill you in on.
I came because I thought Lou might be here, and I would have probably commented on the agreement that we've recently agreed upon. I think it says here in the agenda that he's here for lot releases on 5A, 6A, 7A, and 8A, which I don't want to change the subject. That's what the agenda says, so I wouldn't know what to say about that.
The,
Some of those lots.
Those were previously released lots, but
Okay.
we had done an A&R plan moving some lot lines, so the lot numbers changed, so it was just to clean up some land court records.
Okay.
well,
I
we
think
wanted
it-
to clarify that with him, right?
I think at least one of those lots, correct me if I'm wrong, but was a lot that may not have been previously
There was,
released,
That
correct?
was the
7
confusion.
We
and
were
8.
confused. We were-
7 and 8 were released with conditions. And
The conditions
were,
were that the DPW and Wall Street would come to an agreement in terms of the
And I
off-site
can update you
mitigation.
on that.
So, we've seen the letter, the agreement that goes back a few months, but we also had seen an email from you maybe 3 weeks ago or something like that, where there were some concerns. So I think that's why we were hoping that you would be here, so appreciate you coming so that you could enlighten us.
Well, at this time, we did meet, the town administrator, myself, and Louis Covey, and we did agree, with your blessing, of course, to agree how we would approach the work owed to us on Winston Road, Turner Road, and some other outstanding issues aside of subdivision, that is snow plowing issues and so forth. But what we did agree upon was, and I do have it in writing here, that he gave us a $25,000, a $15,000 surety bond to secure the work still owed us on Turner Road. That's satisfied. Secondly, we originally asked for a bond in the amount of $68,000 it cost to complete the work owed us on Winston Road. Mr. Petrozzi, as you know, wouldn't know what, for whatever, wanted to negotiate that a different way by leaving us with a surety bond of $25,000 and 3 lots in the balance. We agreed to do that, and on top of that, we discussed some of the work and when it would be done on Winston Road. The reason why we wanted a surety bond there and the lot releases weren't good enough for us is for the security of the people in that neighborhood. If something were to happen to the street, if there were to be a cave-in or something like that, I'd have to spend taxpayers' dollars to protect those people, and lot withheld wouldn't do that. So the $25,000 did satisfy us. There's just a couple of minor things that Lou has still owes us, and that is, and I'll just read right from this letter that I gave to him. This is an email, and it says, "The fully executed bond made out in the amount of $25,000 should be accompanied by an application for a street opening permit obtained by the Town of Norfolk Department of Public Works, along with a $50 application fee." Hasn't done that. I guess he doesn't think he has to. The surety bond should be made out to the Town of Norfolk. Small problem, but it's made out to the City of Norfolk. Include terminology that the bond will remain in full force and effect until the completion of the project as defined and approved by the Town of Norfolk Department of Public Works, i.e., not from 1 year of execution, as a surety bond states. So that means if we don't resolve this in August of 2014, we don't, the surety expires, and, if we don't pick it up, we never know about it. So we just say that we'd like to see in the writing on the surety bond that it's fully, it can be executed when we release it, when we're satisfied that the job's complete on Winston Road.
So The surety bond has not been modified yet to reflect that
No,
requested
but
change.
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
And check that he owed the town for a snow plow in the amount of $4,200 was satisfied. So then Lou writes back to us, all really small stuff, but Bob, I further reviewed your additional comments and offer the following. Since the agreement is leaked to further discussions to be completed by September 30th, is it really necessary to jump through these additional hoops at this time, especially in light of the fact that the scope of the work and completion date may change depending on the outcome of our September meeting? Really not sure what that means, other than in the construction world anything can happen, but also the one-year term of the bond is not meant to be final security for this work until completion. As you know, 3 lots remain in covenant, and the extension of the term of the bond beyond August 14th can be a condition, if necessary, to release these lots. As previously discussed, Wall Street is prepared to complete the work on Winston Road within the term of the bond once the town and Wall Street has decided understands how to proceed. So basically what we're talking about is he's got to come in and get a street opening permit, just like you would, Mr. Chairman, or my mother. I mean, it's just something that you do. He hasn't done it. I don't know, I'm just not going to chase him. I didn't even respond to this. And again, we'd like to see, if it's possible, that he extend that surety bond to a year or to when the job's complete, whatever comes first.
Can I?
No, be my guess.
I mean, his language about within the term of the bond, it's going to be completed. Well, that's the whole idea of a bond, is when it's not completed within the term of the bond. The language is unacceptable, at least to this member.
We worked very hard, as you know, to separate off-site from on-site. And I don't see a good reason to put them back together, which in effect we would be doing if you need to take into consideration those 3 lots in any way as you do business and manage the DPW. If you need to be worried about whether there's 3 lots or no lots, then we're back to where we were 6 months ago. And this member doesn't want to go there. So I think you need to get the language that you're comfortable with.
Also, Jeff, Steve, this whole convoluted 5, 6, 7, 8A, and now renumbering, I've been following this for 12 years, and I am totally confused at this point. So,
Well, that's why we didn't do anything about it the last time.
and that's also
because
the
we-
reason why we said he's coming in here to explain it.
All
The way
right.
I stand right now is I've got nothing but time. If he doesn't want to do it, I guess the way we reach him is that you respond to him with your answer to the lots. Then he has to come back to me. And, this is the 6th time I've been here at night, going nowhere with this subdivision. I've had it, Follow the rules, we've agreed to do that. It's as simple as that.
So, do you guys want the board to draft a letter that says that he has to come in to explain the release of the lots to us, because we can't figure out, depending on the changes that he's got listed on there, and there doesn't seem to be complete agreement between him and the highway superintendent on this. Is that
Sounds
agreeable
good
to
to
you?
me.
Yeah, so we'll just send that out.
Sorry, Bob.
It's okay. Thank you very much for your support.
Okay, moving right along. John Primpus. There he is. Yeah, this is regarding
Hey, come on, John.
the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. It's a pre-submission hearing, or meeting. Okay, go ahead and identify yourself and let us know what you've got.
Owner of Dunkin' Donuts. Here today, would like to do just conceptual sketch of a couple different ideas. Number one, looking to relocate my drive-through lane around the existing parking spots that we have behind the landscaping to help better the traffic flow for not only my customers but for the town. And also looking to propose a 2,100 square foot building next door on the land that we own, with a drive lane ideal for a bank. And I do have a couple of members from Norfolk Credit Union present here tonight that has shown some interest. So I'd just like to get the board's opinion on that matter.
So, I just glanced at this. Are these parking spaces off of the access road to the MBTA lot? These ones over here?
Yes, so I spoke with the building commissioner, and he said we have access to the right of way, to our property.
It's a private
Yeah,
way,
right.
so you
We've
own up to the
always
middle
assumed
line,
that, right.
right?
All right, does anyone have any questions on
Actually,
this?
yeah,
or,
a quick one anyways, and maybe you have come across this or you haven't. I know it's a pre-submission, so we won't be too hard on you. What is the frontage on the new lot? Is it gonna be a planned multi-lot development? And if so, that's how you're gonna have to file it as a special permit. Secondly is, we have up to 80% lot coverage, I believe, also in, I don't know, is that outside the business core, or where's the business core line there?
Do you know that, Gino?
I believe this is outside the business core.
Okay, but I'm not sure the lot coverage, but that'll be another, an issue for you to be aware of on that. I love the idea of you lengthening the drive-through lane. We've seen this at different iterations over the last couple of years anyways, as you've worked with us to try to, mitigate the traffic. So that's a great plus. But short of that, I'm assuming at 2,100 square feet, it looks like you have plenty of parking already. And
Yeah, I guess just the main question, when I spoke to Bob, and he said, you guys would know better, and I guess maybe Gino and Tom, does it meet the 80% coverage and all that kind of stuff? That's the question, I'd like to have.
until you actually draw up the plan, that's something that'll be on the cover sheet.
And it's not just the Dunkin' Donuts side. It's the other side also.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I did have just a couple of comments on this. It seems like some of the things that we discussed before, particularly with respect to the Dunkin' Donuts site, didn't quite get captured. Like, I think we expressed concern about the sharp right-hand turn here, and we're gonna try to smooth that out a bit. And I think we're gonna have, like, waiting spaces here for special orders, or some spaces designated for special orders. And, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, so what we do now is, if in the event that we have like a huge order, they just pull all the way around, they kind of just park here in the back on like the little curb. But we really don't have if there's a massive order that we pull up, we're not thinking about putting spots in the fronts, and we were gonna maybe try to cut the curb and just have them enter from the side. I just think it's a much better traffic flow than what we have right now, just because the store's gotten significantly busier since we put it in the menu board.
Well, it's certainly a great idea to have the separate drive-through lane, because, kind of driving through a parking lot is problematic in a whole bunch of ways. So it's definitely an improvement. The only concern I would have is just the geometry here. And even if you lose a car or so in the queue length, I think that needs to be a little more gentle. I like the idea as a single entrance from the street, but it's just a matter of once you get into the site, how do you diverge into that lane? The only other comment I have, and I'm glad to see you're able to provide the bypass lane on the proposed building. You have access to this MBTA right away, but are these spaces backing into it? In other words, is this the continuation of the MBTA up here?
No, so they're not into the street, no.
Okay. So what is this sort of driveway going up here? Where does that go?
To the back lot.
To your back lot?
No, up to Desco,
Right.
into, just past that last line. I don't mean to speak for you, but I know the lots pretty well. That's the first turn into the MBTA lot there.
Okay.
And if you went straight up, that's the dead end with the Desco building on the back right. So,
It kind of looked like you were backing into the street, which would be,
Oh, no.
They're
Not
backing
something-
into the right-of-way. the MBTA right-of-way. Is that the question that you were
That
asking?
was the
Yes,
question,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it does look that
Does
way
look that way.
from this.
That would be
Particularly the
problematic because
spaces
an
closest
MBTA
to
right away is kind of
Main
a,
Street.
you know, almost like a street or a drive unto itself. So you wouldn't want your vehicles to have to back into that. That could be problematic.
Why would that be more problematic than if it was a regular roadway? Because they still put parking like this, parallel parking right in front of buildings all the time. Did you really think that that's an issue?
Well, if this is the access up to the MBTA there, yeah, I think it might be. It depends on the volume of traffic there and how it's behaving. I can't, I mean, it's chopped off here. It's hard to tell, but.
You know what, though? I think if you look at it objectively, and again, let's not just call it the access way for the MBTA, because as we know, private ways are owned by the property owners to the center line. Okay, so this is actually his land as well. But I'd look at it this way: the bulk of the traffic that comes in and out of Norfolk. I had a son that was on the train all summer long, and I was the one that got to drive him there at 6:30. Is
Personal
like-
experience.
But, between that 6, 7, 8 o'clock time, that's when your morning is, and 6, 7, 7:30 trains, that's where the people are coming out of Boston. I don't think that will conflict with, mostly, you said it's a bank coming in, with those operating hours. So I think we may be able, to mitigate the concern, because, yes, I can understand, and it's a great comment, Tom, but realistically, I don't think we have a conflict.
You don't want someone backing into some.
And these lots also fill up first because they're the closest. So,
Yeah, no, it's certainly,
Yeah, I had forgotten about the
We do need to take a closer look at that, though. We do need to see the detail in the plan so that we know what we're getting into. As far as people potentially backing into harm's way there, we should know about that.
Well, that drive-through in the Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know if that's an awfully big car at that left-hand turn there after you first enter it.
The way the architect, she did like SUVs. So I mean, you can, the way it's set up right now, our menu board to the street's like it's like a 7-car stack, like regular stack size car. If you do it the other way, it's like 14, 15. So it's like night and day.
Well, I'm concerned more about that turn. That's what my concern was, is that looks like it's an awfully tight turn. I mean, the rear end of the car is touching one curb, and the door is touching the other curve as you go around that corner. See what I'm talking about, right?
Right.
Is there something wrong with the scale of these cars that were put in here?
That might be. I mean, if we were to move forward to do this, we would make it wide enough so that wouldn't be an issue.
So do we consider this more of a concept than an actual layout?
I guess you can call it that. I mean, we definitely would like to move forward and do this. I think it's going to help not only us but customers too, and the town.
John, I think what you've heard, not only from Tom, but other members, is that this choke point, and we actually brought it up even when you were considering moving the board back, which I think has definitely helped with the flow already. But he's got to just make the geometry work, and that's what you pay him for.
Yeah, it's
So,
nothing big.
You may have to clip those corners at some point
Again,
to
that's-
do something, you know?
Potentially, maybe that corner be a compact car space as opposed to a full space or something like that, if you already have enough spaces there anyways. So,
Along those lines, the parking space that's at the top, which may not be such of an issue in terms of the radius, because you've got some additional space. You have a dumpster there further off in the corner, depending on, I guess, the detail once we get something which has a little bit more detail than this document. But that space, in terms of them backing out to leave the facility, there's no place for them to, I guess they can back straight, but they can't really back at all towards the drive-through lane. There's no room. So just in terms of managing that turn, you have somebody backing out, and it's going to be important that they can, turn and get out.
You're
So,
saying the 7 spots by the dumpster?
Yeah, the employee park.
Yeah, they usually
Were
don't
you
need to
talking
after
about the
2
employee?
o'clock.
yeah, this spot here. So somebody's going to pull
Oh,
in here.
not the employee one.
Correct.
He's talking about the last one in the main lot.
Oh, okay.
I'm assuming you got a 24 foot in between the end of each parking row, so. And once, again, I think, with a regular submission by your site engineer, I think that'll be picked up. I mean, that's what the normal regs are, and I'm sure they're gonna review it.
Well, my biggest concern when I look at it is the fact that the employee parking seems to stick into the the exit lane, the bypass lane. Are those cars going to be able to bypass if people are parked in those spaces?
Yeah, it's like that right now. They can go around. There's plenty of room.
Wow. Okay. You see any issues, Gino?
Well, that lot coverage issue, it's only 60% lot coverage
Oh.
outside the business core.
That's why we brought it up. Thought it looked busy.
Maybe you explain it. I'm a little sorry.
What happens is this, is in the business core, the maximum lot coverage you can have is 80%. Therefore, 20% landscaping, et cetera, like you have on your existing site, because you have all this. When you break this up now into 2 lots through a planned multi-lot development, we can vary the size of the frontage. However, we can't play with the lot coverage, correct, Gina?
Right.
Right.
That lot coverage is building and parking lot, basically, walkways, anything.
Impervious surfaces.
So it looks like your proposed bank site may have too much building for the site of space that's available.
Or too much building, parking lot, and combinations of travel lanes, et cetera.
Yeah, like coming straight out onto Main Street would reduce it a pretty good amount, though then it has the negative effect of another curb cut on Main Street.
So you're saying instead of having an exit on the side road too?
I'm just saying, if that's the difference between making the 60% or not, that's the one way that you might be able to make it.
How many square feet are we off, Gino, if you did the math already?
I don't know, because I don't know what the,
Okay,
what the
okay.
area is here.
Yeah, the lot sizes aren't described.
Yeah, and do you need all those spaces? Are all those spaces required for?
Parking spaces, you said yeah, so I mean, I just had my my architect put in extra spots. I think they only need like 8 spots. So-
Well, there's
to
a schedule
comply
by
with-
zoning,
yeah.
so it looks like you have more than you need here. But you may be able to mitigate the other concern by another member and Tom of the backing out issue. But yes, that's why I wanted to bring it up, and that's the value of the pre-submission too, before you get too deep into plans.
I mean, the employee parking, it may be the way it is presently, but now that you're extending the drive-through train, if you will, I mean, the angle of those spaces, I mean, that may need to change. I mean, if you've got cars in the drive-through and you've got employees trying to leave, I'm not sure that that's very conducive to that, the way it's
I think
set
that
up.
would have to be staggered. You'd have to have the employees parked there before that queue would be, or, drivers will work it out while they're there. They'll let somebody interrupt, but it clearly there's not room in addition to the cars in queue to get in and out of those spaces. But I think you can manage that time-wise. I think the employees probably get there before
Yeah,
the
they,
queue forms.
yeah, they mostly. I mean, the queue is really 6:30 to 8:30, and then most of the employees leave like 12, 1, 2. So at that point, our busy time is 6:30 to 8:30, and then queue 4.
Tell me this, if you run into just in case you run into a lot coverage issue, parking issue, or what have you,
Seems like it's out right
you
on that
guys can
street.
help me out with this. There's potentially shared parking opportunities between the two lots, okay? There's also, can we have, is your intent to lease this or sell this building? Lease, so you're holding on to it,
Yeah, built this.
okay? Do you, can we actually have two buildings on one lot?
That's what I was wondering.
And that may be able to mitigate your concerns there. And also having shared parking, like your employee parking here, along with employee parking for the bank or whatever tenant's gonna be there. I'm just trying to throw these ideas out so you can find a way to, satisfy the bylaws.
You'd have to find some way to allow pedestrians. If you're gonna have shared parking, you have to deal with the pedestrians, potentially having to deal with this drive-through lane. Just have to be careful about all sorts of other aspects if you're gonna have shared parking.
Right, but, I mean, think of it, we have shared parking right here with, granted, there's only a shell out here right now, and you've got the Walgreens building, but, that, we don't get the queuing that, Dunkin' Donuts
yeah,
does, but realistically, that was approved that way as well.
Well, the-
I mean, again, I'm just throwing
Yeah,
these things
right.
out as options, just trying to make it a successful project.
So have you got enough ideas? Michelle, did you have anything to throw
I
in?
think that, I was wondering the same thing, why separate it into two lots? That just might not be necessary. Keep it one lot and see if you can fall under your
I think I did it like that because if I did that, then I'd probably lose another 3 spots where the 10 is to connect the lots. So then that would kind of interfere with what I'm trying to accomplish with relocating my drive-through line. So that's why I did it separately. If I had my architect play around with connecting both the lots and
Well, there are some simple ways. I mean, an example is recently what we saw at the new medical building that we approved, where it's simply a painted strip designated as a pedestrian path of I don't know if it was a 5-foot strip or something that was just painted on the asphalt parking lot that just designates this is where pedestrians can walk.
Basically to alert any cars that might be coming to a drive-through or to the parking lot to say, hey, there might be someone coming across here,
So you may not-
crosswalk rules apply.
maybe more like a crosswalk. You may not necessarily need to lose a significant number of parking spots. I think the other opportunity I saw is, I'm kind of wondering the treatment of the drive-through lane, and then you have the bypass lane, and then the drive-through lane, and that intersection of all those three coming together, and maybe that center part becomes an opportunity for both sites, so that you have an opportunity in your Dunkin' Donuts drive-through to bypass quicker than before you get around the back of the building. I don't want to create more conflict with traffic, but it just seems like there's a lot going on there, and maybe it could be developed in a more opportunistic way than a conflicting way.
So I'd look at lot coverage, I'd look at shared parking opportunity, as well as pedestrian cross-access. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, just a question that's really a catch-up question on my part. The physical location of the proposed new building, is it set back from the street far enough? Gino and Tom, maybe you could...
25 feet, I'm not sure what that distance is.
It's actually 6 through 19 in the B1 district. I don't know outside the business core. Is
Yeah,
it 25 feet outside the business core? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Well, judging by the size of a parking lot, a
Yes.
parking space, it probably meets the 25 feet. Just a guess.
Mm-hmm.
But is the sidewalk that's shown on there, that's on your property as opposed to in the Main Street right-of-way?
sorry, where's this?
The sidewalk, existing sidewalk along the street? Sidewalk,
That sidewalk was done with the TIP program. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure
yeah,
it's
so
in the
that
right
must
of
be
way.
in the right-of-way, so,
Or by easement, right?
yeah.
I know you guys don't have a plan in front of you, but does anyone have a question about what we're talking about here with the change of the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through and the potential building next door? Nope. All right.
I think you can
guess
work.
that-
I'm thrilled that
yeah.
you're taking the opportunity
The o-
to spend here.
The only question I had is, do we have to connect, I mean, my intention wasn't to share the parking, was just have my own parking and have, the bank or whoever have their own parking. I think 15 parking spots for customers is, I think that's enough.
Well,
A good amount.
you have to get the number from the building commissioner. He'll give you the number that you need.
15 for which?
Well, so on my proposal, he said it's 300, for every 300 square feet, you need one parking spot. So he said that I already have enough parking. So when I had this sketch drawn, my intention wasn't to share parking, was just to have it separate. So
300
that's why-
square feet for the office or retail, you mean, not for the Dunkin' Donuts restaurant.
No, that's what he said.
Really?
Yeah.
Because normally they go by seats.
Yeah, restaurants are seats.
Right. So,
The only suggestion for sharing parking was that if you can't meet your lot coverage,
Okay.
there may be an opportunity for you to share parking, therefore you don't need as much parking and you might be able to get your lot coverage. So I don't think you want that decision about sharing parking to drive your decision. I think because you're gonna need to meet your lot coverage. So you might wanna keep an open mind about sharing parking if it allows you to develop the site in the way that
Right.
you wanna develop it.
the shared parking's a lifeline.
And that was 80, you said it was 80%?
60%.
60.
So,
The, I'm not sure if it's employee parking for the proposed building, but along the back where you show that the parking doesn't go all the way, it doesn't go as far back. I assume that the property line goes further back, is in line with the Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, it goes further
rear.
back, but then there's like a retaining wall and it kind of slopes downwards, so that's why they didn't put it all the way back.
got some grade there, right? And you need that anyways for lot coverage. You can't afford to take any more away.
All right, so do you have enough comments from the board?
Actually, I don't think it's anything insurmountable.
No, it
No.
isn't. It doesn't seem. The only, I think the biggest problem you're gonna have is that 60%. That's probably the biggest problem you got.
And have them work the geometry. That
Yeah.
So in regards to the geometry of the drive-through, I just need to show you guys something approved plan.
It has to have numbers on it.
And a certain
Tom will have some comments for you.
a certain size truck usually, Tom tells you that a certain size thing has to get through there.
Okay.
Yeah, like a contractor box truck or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Make all your landscapers park on Carlson Way there, or Carlson Circle.
It's a detail, but I think you probably want to have the dumpster facing this way and plan to empty it when there's
Yeah,
nobody in these spaces.
So that's the architect will have to do that. So the dumpster is going to be, so it's facing the main road. I'm going to have it turned so it's facing Carlson, so the truck can come in.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm sorry, I forgot to put that in. I thought about it after I got it.
Yeah.
So if you do that, does that mean that you would have asphalt extending further back?
Nope. So just
Yeah.
it would just be, the fence would just be turned. So just, I have to just turn the dumpster, turn the fence, and it's just a straight shot right in.
Why don't you show me here? Well, I have the plan in front of me. So you're gonna get it this way?
Nope, this way. Come this way. They come like
Okay.
4:30 in the morning.
Right.
No,
Okay.
the store's closed.
Yeah.
And how far in this direction before the drop off here? I mean, it's,
It's like right around this area. So they would just come in this way.
yeah.
They winch it up, right?
It would be
And
facing-
then
Yeah.
roll it in.
I mean, the reason why I say that, I mean, if you were to change the orientation of the parking there to create a little bit more space rather than have it 90 degrees, I mean, if it could continue in a uniform way across into that
Yeah,
property,
I
the
spoke-
adjacent property where the proposed building is, that would be kind of neat. I think.
Well,
Yeah,
this, that's the property line, right? You've got probably, what, another 10 feet between the property, the property line and
it
the...
drops down. Like, it's
Oh.
like probably about 10 feet, then it just drops down. So.
Well, I mean, I'd like you to look at that because, you know, you're trying to fit quite a bit on the footprint here of the Dunkin' Donuts property, so I think it's reasonable to ask that you take a look at that. And then you could kind of clean up, you could have one contiguous section of parking along the back of these properties if you were to do that. I don't know what that takes in terms of cost, but you know, I think it's a reasonable request that you look at it.
Right.
I'm just giving him more. Okay, so you have enough?
I think so.
Yeah. You can come back for another pre-submission if you want.
Right, if you wanna, you know, the only thing I worry about, Jeff, is if you're pushing back and we're, you know, towards the MBTA line, and there is a decent drop off there, that's where the steps in the back right
Mhm.
down. Now you're getting into retaining walls, and it'll definitely be above, what is it, the 4 feet or whatever, so the fences, it's not a minor change. And two, and I think anything further that he pushes back on is gonna impinge on the green space as well. So,
Yeah, that's, that's a concern with lot coverage.
so.
But he's gonna look at it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I wish your
Yeah.
guy was here tonight,
Yeah.
because it would probably make more sense to him, that's all.
Well, they can always watch the video.
Just not
So we all set?
Yeah.
All right. So we'll move on to 108. So we're going to continue the public hearing for 108 Main Street. Oh, could you get the microphone here? For the people at home so they can hear what you're saying. Right here. Nope, right here.
Yeah, this Mujeeb Ahmed for applicant for 108 Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
My engineer was here when he just went downstairs for ZBA, so he said he will be back in 5 minutes.
Oh. Okay, so it's 108, 106, 108, and then 106.
Same engineer for all three.
Right.
Oh, is it the same engineer for 106?
He just left.
Oh. Okay, well, we'll delay opening this and see if we can take a look at some of these other things that we have on here. Do we want to look at the Crown Castle first draft?
Well, did you see the comments from the applicant on that?
No, I hadn't.
Just came in today, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They basically are asking that it not be approved tonight, that they're asking for a couple of things. They want to wait till the DRB comments are in and incorporated into the plans, and then the draft has a reference to continuing the conditions of the original ZBA special permit. They're asking that the applicable conditions just simply be incorporated into this one rather than referring to the previous one.
Oh, okay. So they want to defer our voting until the next meeting?
Yes.
Do we have a date for our next meeting?
Don't.
I think,
Gino, that's just a simple cut and paste
What's that?
exercise, is it not?
Bob Nicodemus has
Uh,
something to say.
Oh, does he?
Virtually, there's probably some conditions that are not applicable anymore. I don't know, I haven't looked at that I don't have a copy of that decision at this point, but there might be some that'll drop off, and some that, but most of them will probably just be, as you said, cut
Okay,
and paste.
all right, yep.
Okay, Bob Nicodemus from the Design Review Board.
Yeah, I
believe has
provided a
some
brief set of notes. We had a meeting about 3 or 4 weeks ago. The applicant was there, as were the abutters and so forth. There were a number of comments made regarding the need to clean up the site, which looks like a rock pile of a quarry, and that the existing screen fence looks like it's about ready to fall down, is in deteriorated condition. So there were comments made at that meeting and recommendations, which you haven't seen any response to, that there be some sort of ground cover over the rock piles, and that there be some improvements to the screen fencing. And I put that in a set of meeting notes for record at this moment. It wasn't a decision because we were told that changes were going to be made.
I know that we spoke about some of those things. One of which
I think the revised plan had the change in the landscaping to cover up the rocks in the area, and I think those comments were mentioned when he did his presentation, and I think
right.
the revised plan that was submitted that night, which was the night after the Design Review Board, I think they tried to address them, but
Yeah, well, we haven't seen that, so.
But we asked, because they are only leasing a portion of the property. I guess from what he's saying is that they don't own that parcel that goes out to the main road. They only have, they're only leasing a small section of it.
Well, the plan we saw showed landscaping in front and sitting in little hills on top of rock piles, which we thought was not an appropriate option. And there was no, at that meeting, there was no indication that the condition of the screen fencing and the rest of it was going to be touched, and all of that was mentioned.
They did mention the screening at our meeting, that they were replacing the screening. And they did have substantially more landscaping on there. They told us that there was more landscaping than what you have seen. Am I right on that?
They had 24 evergreens, and then they had filled in between that with ground cover juniper.
Is this the one that
scattered
you saw, Bob? Do you want to see it?
That's what I,
throughout. So it's just to show you it's going to be the landscaping plan, and then we had talked about all the new slats in the fencing. And then this more clearly kind of indicates the larger site versus what they're
Right.
leasing.
Yeah, no, the ground cover and the fencing and all of that was not part of our meeting.
Ah,
And when did you meet with them?
The night before they met with you.
Mm.
so they're meeting with you again, right?
We assumed we hadn't seen this, so we didn't know.
Didn't it say something in here about meeting with the DRB? No,
This says it's
something
next
else.
scheduled meeting.
Yeah.
When do you guys meet again?
Our meetings are scheduled on when there's a need, and we hadn't been seen any drawings, so we had no knowledge
I see.
of the status of it, so we haven't scheduled anything.
I see. And they haven't requested something from you?
If there's a set of drawings and we know it, then we can schedule a meeting around that, but we didn't know it.
All right. Do you have any comments?
So we have drawings now for a meeting, and I see separately there's some questions, or at least a preference being expressed to include the conditions from the original permit, to include it in this permit as opposed to reference it.
Yes.
Well, there's certain things on there that are specifically in that original special permit that we don't want to put in ours. One of which was that it says in the original special permit that they don't want the flag lit. That they wanted it to go up and down every night.
Yes, yes.
So we don't want to put that.
That's true. That's true.
into
Well, that's
the-
why I asked him whether it was a straight cut and paste or not, and he said probably not. There's some conditions that don't apply that shouldn't be in there, so.
So I guess when you draft it, you can figure out which ones. Were you here for that meeting? Or was that the one you missed?
One I missed.
Oh, okay. I guess you can
Murphy's
catch up
Law.
on
And I
the
think
video.
that's why he's asking for it, though. He'd prefer to see what current conditions we're requesting from him rather than continuing to refer back to
Yeah.
special conditions, which several of them don't apply. So I think it's a fair request.
Should we not also ask them to contact the DRB and set up a meeting to close that?
Well, if you've got drawings, and we will schedule a meeting around that. We had no knowledge that there had been revised drawings.
Fair enough.
I
but I
think
mean-
they just emailed us revised drawings today. I'll forward those to you tomorrow.
Okay, all right, good.
And let them know that the DRB would be interested in talking to them.
You know,
Gino, Greg wasn't able to be here at the start of the meeting, but he did ask that we include some reference to the appropriate size of the flag in.
I
The
saw that
conditions.
in the minutes, and that's why I put in the condition about conforming to the federal flag code that he mentioned. And they are also not disputing, but they don't want to, I don't know what the federal flag code requires that they would not comply with, but they are saying they don't want that reference in there either. They just want to say they'll keep it lit 24 hours, and that'll be it. I thought there was also a question as to the size, as you said.
There was. I think it was 15 by 25, as I remember.
it was like a proportional thing. He was just saying if you're going to have one that tall, it can't be the width you said, because they don't, that's not the proportions of the
Right,
US
it has to
flag.
be
So
the-
they had
look odd.
proposed a
Right.
size that doesn't proportionally exist,
I
I think is
see.
what he was saying.
Okay,
And it's on the plan, I think.
okay.
The smaller size, which I guess we're asking them.
Well, the length was the same as what would have been required by the flag code.
One of them
But
was
the,
off.
but the height of the
Yeah.
flag was not.
Yeah.
No, it was
what
the other way
required.
around.
I think it was the other way around.
The other
Oh,
way
was it
around.
the other
yeah.
way around?
The other way
It was
around,
15
yeah.
by 20, it was supposed to be 15 by 25.
Right.
All right.
Now, would it be reasonable to try to move this thing along? If within 2 weeks or something is reasonable for the design review board, can we try to pin, the applicant down here, because we did want to try to see plantings here before winter and then
Yeah.
starting, it's fall. I mean,
Definitely. So you meet whenever you have to, right? So if how do you usually communicate with the applicants? Is it only them contacting you?
No, we have no contact with the applicants. We, the Design Review Board, run all of our information through the planning board for the applicant to make contact. We schedule our meetings, they're free to attend, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm here tonight just to learn what kind of a schedule we might need to create to solve a problem, because we had no knowledge that there was even any documents yet submitted.
Well, we'll probably meet in 2 weeks,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So if you can meet in a week,
Well, I can't
that will
meet-
help.
We probably are not gonna be able to meet until October 1st, which is 3 weeks.
Okay, well, that'll be no problem for us. Next
Oh.
week is a
All right.
conflict for some of us.
Okay.
But we'll schedule it to happen the week after, and the information there will be done, and any other projects that come forward, we'd like to also get them on our agenda, but we don't know what they might be.
All right. So we're going to not even look at the special permit decision. Have you already started drafting it?
Yeah, does it-
Is there a copy in here somewhere?
But that's prior
That's
to
what they
their,
reacted to.
Oh, this is what they were reacting to?
yes,
They-
yes, that's prior
Oh,
to.
okay, there it is. All right. So are you going to be able to pick out what they're looking for, or are you going to wait until after
And they're
DRB
gonna-
has
They're
theirs?
actually gonna, they haven't really reviewed the decision. They're gonna do that and come back with some comments for me this week.
Okay.
All right, if we're going to try to move it along, then they're going to have to try to move it along too. All right. 9 Shire Drive. We want to take a look at the 9 Shire Drive.
You want to set the next
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that we were looking at October 1st, right? Is that okay with everybody? October
It's a
1st?
Tuesday, Gino.
Yeah, that's fine for me.
I'd rather Thursday myself.
Works for me.
I'm okay either. So.
Yeah, I'm good either. I mean, if you want to do the 3rd, it's okay with me. Well, why are we doing the 1st, and why can't we do it? Stuff in between here is just preventing that?
Yeah, okay. You must have a birthday
No, no, I
like
meant-
every
It's 3
every
weeks.
time
Why
we're
not
gonna
2
have a
weeks?
meeting.
I
I
have
don't think I've used an
a
excuse yet,
meeting
but
before, and I've gotta schedule a public hearing for the special permit for 9 Shire, so we need time for advertising.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
it'll be the 1st. We're gonna
The
schedule it
first,
for the
that'll be 3
1st.
weeks. That'll give me time to advertise it.
All right.
Well, is that okay, Michelle?
first is better for me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The DRB was wondering whether new documents had been submitted. The documents we had were reasonably incomplete, and so that was a question
Well,
mark.
she said that you got new plans, right?
For Crown Castle?
For Crown Castle, but I'm asking for 9 Shire Drive.
Oh, for 9 Shire.
I was told that they're coming in hopefully for you tomorrow, so I'll
Okay,
give you a call.
because we hadn't seen anything, that's why.
Yeah, we haven't seen anything either, so.
How much was up in the air on Shire? Was there much?
You might wanna talk to,
That's this.
you might wanna talk to Dover Land Surveying about this, like, there's
Yeah,
been
that's-
some new
that's this.
developments.
Yeah,
Yeah. there's,
Yeah.
We had raised
No, this is
questions.
Crown Castle, right? Oh,
This one.
We had
different.
raised questions regarding the fact that the building had no information on it that you could make any comment on, either color or
basically,
materials,
here's the high points.
so
Ah.
forth.
I'll let you know as soon as that comes in, Bob.
This is okay, this is just extending the storage.
Yeah. Oh, so we have to do this,
You might wanna
right?
hold off on your
Special
night
permit.
Right. Especially, but it's, the planning board action is this.
Right,
Not that. That's a zoning.
Mm-hmm.
zoning board. And there's some questions here.
To be in full compliance unless bylaws written with the board's the ability to waive. Yeah. Do you know the one that we're looking at here?
Yeah, Gino and I took a look at it before.
The third paragraph where it says the second question from Bob Bullock. What would they not be in full compliance on? Do you know?
He pointed out the 50-foot, the requirement for no use within 50 foot of a residential district, something that I know I missed. Because the lot line is also the zoning line, and they're within that 50 feet at this point.
Oh, because of the conservation land behind is a residential zone.
Yeah.
How close are they?
They're like, it widens at one point, but at the narrowest point, they're probably like 20, 25 feet. And then at the widest, it's more like 30 or 35.
I don't remember in that new zoning that we did, if we said that we could relieve any dimensional requirements. Did we? I don't think we did,
Saying
did
we
we?
don't have that, right?
That was in the B1 core,
Yeah.
and maybe the, outside the business core B1, but I think it was all relative to the business district, is my recollection. Is it Article 11 or?
All right. Outdoor storage. What do you have underlined on outdoor, oh, just this bottom section?
And Bob answers that question
yeah.
about outdoor storage, that yes, it's outdoor storage. However, at the same time, he says that there need to be, or he's at least recommending that there be some kind of standards as to how the cars are stacked, not just stacked any which way, behind them.
I think the original plan he had parking laid out, but the aisle widths and that type of thing were substandard. So the second version, to address that issue, he just took all demarcation off the back area, and I think that's what Bob was concerned about, is it's just a
Free flow.
pavement right now with no pattern as to what you do. So I think Bob was expressing some concern about that.
Yeah, I would have concern about that too, wouldn't you?
Well, I guess there's two questions. Is the detail just on the plan, or is there an interest in having it striped physically?
The only way to implement it is just stripe it, if you want to control where the cars are going to be. I mean, the one comment that Bob had that the board might want to think about, he said no stacked parking. Well, if these cars are only going to be moved once a week or something, or once a month while people are away, maybe stacked parking might be appropriate. I wouldn't automatically dismiss that as an option. It's kind of up to them to manage it and how they want to move the cars around.
Yeah, I think we ought to give them that flexibility, frankly, because
For a portion of the site, maybe not for the whole thing.
well, if anything behind the building, which is the storage
Well,
area.
not the whole, they, I'm sure they know what's gonna come in and out quicker. So anything that's gonna be
Lengthy,
like,
lengthy.
people that are
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
people going to Florida for
For
the
6
entire
months.
winter.
Yeah, right,
Just
yeah.
put them in the stacked parking area.
To return to the earlier point about within 50 feet of residential zone, if indeed we must comply with that, that's certainly going to cut into the number of spaces that they can utilize, right? Or even pave, for that matter, right?
Yep.
And has anyone taken a look at what the number of spaces that would be reduced consequently has been? No, okay.
That email just came in today.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that might even nullify the whole project, because if you don't have storage space, what's the point of having a storage business?
Yeah, well, they could go to ZBA for a variance. I'm not quite sure on what basis they would justify that variance, however, but ZBA would have the authority to grant it.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Assuming a reasonable case. And a reasonable case could be that, while technically it's supposed to be based only on soil conditions, topography, or shape of the lot, yeah, you probably could make a shape of the lot case here, but the bigger case is that while it's zoned residential,
It's really conservation.
right,
Yes,
it's never
right.
gonna be residential, so
right.
the
Yeah, it's a
purpose
little
is,
different.
yeah, the purpose is still, complied with.
Right,
You can probably make some of that up if you allow stacked parking, though.
true.
You know, and it's
Yeah.
only, they're only off by 15 feet or so, so.
Mm.
Okay.
So are they redesigning the layout, or where are they at with this then?
They just got the letter just like we did, so we don't know. But we're going to have to put whatever the decisions are into our decision.
Right.
So we may want to. I mean, if a lot of issues come up, we probably should have them back before we write our decision.
As a comment from the audience, I might mention that if they're going to stack and do all of this, at some point, the building commissioner and the fire department may have an issue with how, when, and where you place things so that there is, in fact, safe use of the building.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall if we received anything from the fire chief for that project.
I don't think we've ever received anything
I
either.
don't remember. We may have.
Betsy will let us know. She's looking right now.
They do have the clear aisle, or like a loop going behind the building and then back out for both for pickup and deliveries and access. But then beyond that, is where it's unclear.
So we have to schedule a 9 Shire Drive special permit public hearing.
That was
Which we already
the fire chief.
had and closed, right?
Well, it says on here to schedule something, so.
To the
is it-
outside storage and sign, those are two
Oh.
additional special permits they need, or two special permits that they need.
So this one deals with more access to the building. No, there's nothing as far as the vehicles themselves, access to the vehicles themselves. If one were to catch fire or something like that, it's more access to the building.
So when do we want to schedule? Did they have a request for a scheduled date for?
Well, I figured
Their
October
public hearing?
1st.
Did they have a request for a special permit hearing?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep, they submitted that today.
So I guess October 1st. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Maybe to facilitate things for them as well as resolve the issues, since there's going to be a special permit for the outdoor storage, which is really what impacts that 50-foot thing.
Right.
One way, if you wanted to go through this decision tonight, it would be it already has a statement that they have to comply with zoning and such, and with the regulations of other boards or departments. So that already says they have to comply with what the zoning enforcement officer says. And then that way they can get this file. Maybe it doesn't make any difference to them if they're doing both things. We could resolve it all the same night, but I'm just thinking in terms of expediting, they could, this could be filed and the appeal period expire, and then they could get their building permit, and while they're still going through the special permit on the storage and sign, which they don't necessarily need to start construction.
They just actually filed with the zoning board today, so that,
Oh, okay, then, yeah.
they're not
then-
in any hurry, cause that's gonna actually take a couple of
Right,
months.
yeah, okay, never mind then.
My thought would be this requires a design response. They're probably gonna change the shape of the storage area and try to lay it. I think you're gonna see a different site.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
So what happens in that case? Do we
We have to have another public hearing?
we have to reopen?
Well,
I
could
think
be
it's within the
a
envelope
minor
of what would-
modification,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I would
Yeah,
think so.
could be a minor modification.
You have a minor modification when we haven't even accepted we haven't finalized.
Well,
the
we
site plan
closed the
decision.
hearing, so
Closed the
since we
hearing,
closed the
but we don't
hearing.
have a decision.
And we haven't endorsed the site plan.
Right, so how do you modify something you haven't really
Yeah,
endorsed yet?
you're gonna have to. Well, I guess the
Well,
board
it's a
could vote to
modification of what-
reopen it.
That's what I'm thinking, we might have to
Reopen?
reopen the public hearing. Give
Can we
abutters a chance to.
Have re-advertised it at the same time we do the public hearing for the special permits? You know,
Well, that would be the way to do it, because then it would be,
you're advertising it once
right, once,
and notifying abutters.
all
at the
this
same
in
time.
one motion.
And I think they are related because, we're gonna be reviewing, a storage area greater than 1,000 feet. And in the context of that, it's probably reasonable that for the additional square footage, that there's some definition in terms of what it looks like.
Absolutely.
So I think these things are related. But I'll leave those details to Betsy and Gino.
Can it be done in a single mailing?
Sure,
I think so, we
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
just
absolutely.
do a new public hearing notice and include the special permit and the site plan modification, maybe? How would you do that?
No, it wouldn't be a modification, but it would be reopening the site,
Reopening the
the
site
hearing
plan?
for the
So we
site
should
plan.
just reopen it tonight and schedule it, right?
Does the applicant have to request us to reopen it then?
He's-
No, we
the
can reopen
engineer is
anything
in the
that we want.
building. He's coming up, he's the same engineer as the Main Street project, so.
If
He'll
you're
let us
gonna
know if he's even ready
re-advertise
for
anyway,
October 1st.
my thought is to simply re-advertise the site plan and the special permit.
I agree with
That's
you.
legally the cleanest, and it sounds like there's no delay, there's no cost. I just put aside the process we've gone through, just reopen the whole thing.
You can do that.
All right,
Sounds reasonable to me.
sounds reasonable.
What time on the first do you wanna do that? Do you wanna do it at 8 PM?
But we already have Crown Castle, right? I don't know when that's coming.
Yes.
That's the only other thing on the agenda right now.
So-
I'm sure we'll probably have the continuations of these projects coming up on the first as well.
Well, the other one would be, I suspect that this 9 Shire Drive will be relatively quick. I don't think it's gonna be really long.
Maybe we
either.
put it 7:45.
7:45 is probably a good
Okay.
time for that. How's your engineer?
I think I'm going to start.
Oh. Okay. Okay, this is a continuation of the public hearing for 108 Main Street. This is my product placement for the video. I've got my cover on here.
Looks like you've had that a while.
Well, it's just dirty.
I'm Mujib Ahmed, the applicant for 108. Since Evan is still with the ZBA, I'm trying to take over what we are doing here. This plan is still a work in progress, so still he's working on it. But we want your input and the audience input also. What we are doing here is we eliminate all the duplexes, all the apartments on 108, but specifically I'm going to talk about 108 at this time. So instead of duplexes, I converted into single family. And this will be the single family homes. It will be like 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 1 car garage. I mean, and the builder's square foot is like 1728, but the architect will come close to 1600, I think. If you want to know the architectural square feet. And basically, this has laundry room upstairs, you know, and if there are a couple of buildings, if there needs to be walkout, so this is the elevations been for the walkout. If not, the back will show only the 2 floors. And it will be 20 single-family units. The foundation size is 2436, 2-story.
Does it show 22 units?
I'm sorry, yeah, 22. So everything all this septic system at the back, and I think the cul-de-sac meets the requirement, if I'm not mistaken there, you know. And 4-foot sidewalk, 1 car garage, and
What's the spacing between buildings?
building is like basically 12 plus. It's 14 feet, the 13 or 14 feet. I'm not sure, but minimum 13 feet.
So that's all septic in the back.
Yeah.
Where's the stormwater going?
Stormwater, I think it's going on underground on the road. The underground Caltex.
Yeah, but where's it being carried to?
I think that will come with all the detail because still we need to work in progress and still be doing all the calcs.
Yeah, see, I'm having a hard time with the whole cul-de-sac issue because this sort of defeats our 500-foot cul-de-sac limit. Because what you're doing is you're taking the cul-de-sac, which is, I believe, where your driveway comes off of what you're hoping is a town road, and you're putting the cul-de-sac at the end of that. That's probably a 1,000-foot cul-de-sac, not a 500-foot cul-de-sac.
Actually, now we got another hearing coming up on that. So we are requesting to change, I think
it'll be easier.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. My name's Evan Wilmot with the Dover Land Surveying Company. Basically, at the last meeting, there was the issue brought up asking for an extension in that Mr. Chipman had decided to eliminate the apartment buildings and go with duplexes. In the 2 weeks since then, the project has now been changed to, instead of duplexes, single-family homes. Based on the layout we had with the duplexes, Mr. Mujib was going to be able to get 13 duplexes, which was 26 units. Currently, with the single-family homes, he's down to 22 single-family homes, so he's losing 4 units. On Mr. Chipman's, he originally had 4 apartment buildings with the 43 units, which maxed out his property based on the zoning regulations. We were going to revise the plan to 16 duplexes, which was 32 units total, and now we're coming in with a proposal for 30 single-family homes. So basically, based on the zoning numbers, the total numbers of dwelling units is going to be 30 on Mr. Chipman's, which ends up being about 67% of the maximum allowed on the property. As far as Mr. Ahmed's project on the Anderson's property. He's going to end up with 22, which works out to be 60% of the total build-out that is possible under the zone.
Well, that's if you are counting all the wetlands as buildable plots.
Well, under the zoning, the wetlands is considered a usable area for the calculations. And if we were to connect the buildings together, and just put in big row houses, we could probably bump the number up considerably. Based on the fact that these buildings are only 24 feet wide, and you get 12 feet between the buildings. So for every 2 buildings, we could get another building in there if we were to connect them all and sprinkle them. But that's not our intent. It's, as far as we're not out to stack the property to the maximum we could. We're trying to build a development that is livable to everybody in the area. Easy access to the commuter train, as far as pedestrian walks going down, tying in to the walks running up the street to Dunkin' Donuts in the center of town. We are, as far as the roadway, it's going to be a private drive going in. It's no longer going to be public way.
Oh, so you've decided against the public way on the way in. Okay.
Yeah.
That solves a lot of your problems.
Yeah, yeah, that's with the definitive subdivision plan, it's going to have to be withdrawn and changed over into a site review plan. And that way, all the roadway will be private. On this end, we're putting in a cul-de-sac for emergency vehicles, and on this end, we're bringing the roadway, right down to the town property, because 10 feet off the property line is an existing access road through the town property that goes out to Old Town Pond Road. So if there is an instance where they need emergency access, it can easily be obtained right off the access road next door. It will also provide a walkway out into this area
Are you
for the
showing
residents.
that roadway on this? It's hard for me.
Well, the roadway's right here. It
That-
goes up and it basically runs out and then turns. But right in this area, it's only about 10, 12 feet off the property line. So an emergency vehicle should easily be able to cross it.
It'd be great if you can show
There's
it
no-
even diagrammatically, it'd be helpful.
Yeah. Well, that'll be on the final plans.
Did you have a comment to say on that, Tim?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Peter Chipman, 106 Main Street. We have only opened 108 Main Street's hearing. I know that it's kind of all jumbled together, and we're getting across. And Evan literally ran in the door, probably didn't know where we were at that point. I just want to make that point to you. So,
Well, it was good that he did that, because that brought up the whole bit about it being a
the
private
cul-de-sac and
drive
everything
instead
else.
of
No, I understand, but that was the next hearing.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, this is going to be like the final build-out for both properties, to give you an idea of exactly what it's going to look like. I mean, and the decision to go to the single-family homes wasn't actually made until like Thursday last week, so, trying to revise the plans. And
Now, Tom and Gino, have you seen any of this?
Not till tonight.
Oh, okay. Do you see anything in here that you think might be an issue?
Well, just to clarify, is this one lot or 2 lots?
there's actually 2 private pieces of property.
So it would be a shared driveway.
It's a shared driveway going in.
We have cross easement agreements, Tom.
That's a ZBA issue, I think,
Well,
isn't
I'm
it?
thinking of access through the frontage. How do you deal with that? Each lot having access through its frontage. So I guess it's kind of.
Well, the roadway's basically being split right up the
well,
property
down
line.
the lot. Well, I think we had some
Yeah, Hickory Bend
precedent
was
for
like
that
this, right?
on Hickory, whatever that was.
I mean, basically, the roadway's been situated where it is, mainly because of the wetlands around
No, I
around the pond on
understand.
Anderson's and around the culvert where it comes out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to position the roadway so we could get the maximum setbacks to the wetlands possible, trying to meet as much of the criteria for roadway design as we could.
You know, it may be well just to run that by Bob Bullock, because I think he was okay with it on the Hickory Bend project, so. But it is kind of feasible to the whole, intrinsic to the feasibility of the whole thing. So.
Yeah, you never know how zoning's gonna be interpreted.
What are the offsets behind the units on the left,
And here,
yeah, to the property line?
16 and a half feet from the building.
At an earlier meeting, I think you had talked about acknowledging the privacy issue and
Yep.
putting a fence up in there. Is that still the case?
Yep, we're still proposing to put a stockade fence all the way down this property line and partway down the line heading back out onto Main Street. And the design review board has emphatically stated that they want landscaping on top of that, such as pines or some type of spruces or something, to also supplement the fence. So
Are they asking about
Oh, there it is.
supplementing the fence outside the fence?
actually, the trees will be going on the inside of the fence.
Oh, on the inside of the fence?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's it.
Is-
Do you have anything, Walter? Do you have any questions?
Well, I think one of my concerns had been the second access, which Peter picked up on at the first discussion, and now you seem to have come up with a solution for that. I don't know what it will require in terms of acknowledgement from the town and cooperation from the town to make that second access accessible, but it looks like it's a solution that potentially is at hand.
While it was in works, I picked up the phone and called Cole Bushnell, fire chief, and he felt that was adequate.
Good.
And he just needed to see the plan.
Right.
And again, I think the purpose for tonight is to show good faith that we are working forward instead of just showing up, telling these folks that are showing up here, with their abutter interest of saying, I need a continuance. I just thought it was important for us to at least come in, show our forward progress, show where we're going,
Right.
show how the design is coming, and to be quite honestly, reacting to probably every comment that you guys have made in the last 2 or 3 meetings that we've been here.
Sure.
In terms of the cul-de-sac.
Yep.
What is available for parking? You know, someone has a get-together over their home there, because you don't have much of an offset in front of those homes. And-
Basically, there's room for one car between the building and either the back of the curbing or the back of the sidewalk. So you've got a parking space in the building and you got a parking space outside the building.
And
Under
how-
the zoning bylaw, we only need 1.5. We have 2. As far as anybody having a party at their house, it would probably end up like any other residential subdivision. You know, the owner's cars go in the driveway and everybody else parks in the street. I mean, this is set up to be a residence, just like a residential subdivision. Most homes are set up to be close to the front street line because people like a nice backyard. So,
Yeah, but the difference here is that you don't have the space between the homes that would normally exist in a typical subdivision.
Yep.
And it's a cul-de-sac.
I'm thinking of the development, and I know our board has made reference to this before on Route 27 in Medway, where it has this, high level of density and yet, a very unique and interesting and attractive architecture to it. I think the one thing that I'm seeing in the difference when I think about that development, which I like a lot and I think is a great model, but I think the one thing I feel is lacking here is some sense of shared open space. So you have a lot of density, and there doesn't really seem opportunities throughout the development for any relief of, you know, a little play area or, you know, parking overflow or something just to give, you know, some pockets of relief throughout both sides to help it feel like it's now got that access to some green space despite all the density to it. So that's the only thing I get a little concerned about, because again, I really love that development on 27, but it does afford sort of a common, you know, or a little town.
You mean the one in
feel center.
Medfield?
Sorry, Medfield, not Medway.
Yeah, there is no common land there at all.
There was when it first opened, but
Maybe
it's
it's
getting
that
filled
maybe
in.
it's that they hadn't developed
But
it yet.
they have all the land in front around where the wetlands are. It looks like
Yeah.
that's a substantial parcel out front.
And I guess I wonder, is it really marshy and
Well,
overgrown with
well,
brush,
yeah,
or is
they-
it open green? I don't know the site well
Basically,
enough.
from the driveways, you know, this area back, it's all upland dry. I mean, this is it's grassy, and then it goes into woods. This property's all woods, this
Yeah,
property.
that will help.
The back is all wide open pasture right now.
Short of the actual ponds, it's not really marshy or punky type of land. If we had the flexibility with the Conservation Commission to be able to maintain it to a level as, say, a couple of the other abutters, like the Diamonds or the Finlands, right down to the pond. Actually, to the right of that first driveway, and I'm sure Mr. Anderson, who's my abutter, can tell you, that used to be a garden area. And
This whole area.
the existing driveway that leads up to the abandoned, you know, brown house there, this is plenty of open space. And the idea of it, of finding some type of pedestrian access or connection to Town Pond, which has kind of been a recreation goal all along, I'm sure we could figure a way with that as well. And, I mean, that's a fair comment. If you're gonna put in, you know, 52 homes, why not have the area? I'm all for it. It's just that it's in other jurisdictions.
Yeah, which
What
is
about
okay.
the septic areas? Were those gonna be flush to the ground or raised systems or?
Actually, they're gonna be in the ground.
in
So
the
there'd be
ground?
grassy
Yeah,
areas
yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Backhoe
yeah.
couldn't reach any further after 14.
This whole area, I mean, it goes up in elevation, but the system's gonna be, you know, probably in the back end, it's gonna be 3 feet of cover over the system. Because in the shallowest we hit water in any of the holes up in the area of the systems was, I think, 10 feet in one of them. Otherwise, we were down 11, 12 feet with no water.
And stormwater, where does the stormwater go?
Most of the stormwater is going to be going under the street.
It's going to be going under the street?
Yep.
Are you just putting galleys along? You're talking about under your driveway?
Yeah.
Okay, you're just putting
under the
galleys under the
driveways.
driveway? Oh, okay.
Just like I had on the original file plan.
Okay. Well, there's not a lot of detail that we have on this yet. I imagine that's coming, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, I think that, does anyone else on the board have any other questions?
Well, I think, you had made the point earlier about the cul-de-sac, where we have a 500-foot restriction. And in this particular case, I think the combination of that and the density that exists there is a concern for me.
What's the scale of it?
There's
Jeff,
a
isn't
40
that a
scale.
500-foot restriction on a roadway?
Yeah,
And that's the reason why we took into account.
Yeah.
It's also something I bounced off the fire chief, who's really
Mhm.
responding. So that's also the reason why we took it out of the town roadway and put it into a private
So
drive.
you're under 500, aren't you?
Again, we heard you loud and clear, and that's the reason why we
No,
went.
not for that.
It's 380 to there, and then about 380.
I still think there's practical concerns because, if the fire department is trying to get to the top of that cul-de-sac and you have limited parking, given the number of homes that you have on that cul-de-sac, I think there's going to be some problems in terms of congestion, given what we're doing there.
Every building has a half parking space more than required.
Also, you can build into the condo association rules that there is no on-street parking, especially overnight.
Will it be a condo
These
association?
are condos, otherwise it would have to be or a homeowners association.
Well, the one thing I have a concern with are the hammerheads. Is there any way to make that into a loop instead of having the two hammerheads up there. I know I'm jumping over to 106, but
Yeah.
it's part of the same, like traffic flow.
Would,
I just got to see this plan myself, so.
it could, but it would be losing two buildings. Because, I mean, this could basically be just cut through connector.
Be a loop.
And thereby you have your loop.
Can you not build on top of the septic systems?
No building can be, no foundation can be within.
No, not the foundation, the roadway.
Road, yeah, I could put the roadway.
That's where I'm wondering if you could loop it instead of
No.
having hammerheads, because I don't see a fire truck being able to go up to the end of that and being able to turn around in a.
Yeah, I mean, I could run this road in and loop it back,
Well,
with a limited amount.
I think that's a little bit
Okay.
safer. Did anyone else have any
That's a
feeling
good
about
point.
that?
That might create
That's
nicer
a good point. I mean,
landscaping.
we're gonna have at least,
For the dead end.
at least 100 people living in there.
Okay, are we all done with questions until we get some details on this? Okay, I know that we sort of confused the issue because we're trying to get an overall feel of it, but we're really only talking about, in this hearing, the one on the left-hand side, which is 108. So if there's any questions, you can ask questions to the board. You just have to make sure that you identify yourself.
And use a microphone.
And where is the microphone? Oh, there it is.
Hi, Peter Diamond, 114 Main Street. A couple of questions. Are you still going to raise the land? Previously, you said you were going to raise the land 3 feet?
I'm working on the grading right now. And most likely, because of the groundwater table, there will be some fill being brought in.
And which area would that be in there? It was in part on the
Maybe
access
the-
road was
maybe
part
on
of it,
the
right?
downhill side. No, the street side of this.
Oh, okay.
And the fence, where'd you say the fence was going to go?
Fence is going right up the property line, and then turning and coming part way down.
Is it going to go towards the tracks too?
Not as far as I know right now.
Well, what's to stop anybody to coming through and cutting through my property if it don't go towards the tracks also?
Are there paths back there, or are they
Yes,
just going to
there
be
are.
bushwhacking it through the
No,
woods?
no, there's paths back there.
There's some paths coming off of this property because this is all fenced in.
That's what he means.
To the left,
That's what he means.
at the
that-
high
that-
point there to the left, there are paths.
Up in here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be cutting through Desco's property and the MBTA?
Well, if they
property?
go that way, but they can certainly come down through my property, it'd be a lot easier. Excuse me.
Yeah.
My property line is right here. I'm talking about they can just come right around the corner here. If there's no fence going that way, they can come right around the corner and come right down through my land. I don't want the responsibility of people cutting through my land. I have a pond in front, and if they come through with kids and get hurt, I certainly don't want that responsibility. If there's a fence there, they have no right to do it.
Did we hear the applicant respond?
Yeah, I said we don't have any problem putting the fence on the,
Okay.
we just continue the same fence and.
Any other questions? Okay, right here.
Candy Comby,
It's on. It should be on. Yeah.
I'll just talk loud. Candy Comby, 105 Main Street. I'm wondering what the difference is between a public road and a private road, private drive.
The town doesn't maintain it if it's a
Right.
private road.
Okay, but what, no other difference? I mean,
Well, we have a restriction on cul-de-sac lengths on a on a private road. I mean, on a public road, we have a restriction of 500 feet. So theirs is really just a private drive. With a private drive, they've got about a 600-foot cul-de-sac if you go from the roadway out to the end of the cul-de-sac on the left-hand side. So there's the 600 feet, but it's not a public road, so we're not restricting them on that. We only restrict public roads.
But to your point, there's a reason why there's a 500-foot restriction, and it has to do with access and egress and such. So there are practical reasons for it, and we need to have that lens when we review these projects, in my opinion.
Steve?
No, a point of order.
Yeah.
Point of order for the chair. I believe Mr. Chipman should answer questions as directed by the chair,
Mm-hmm.
and his involvement should be limited to that this evening.
Okay. Did you have a comment on that?
Regarding the cul-de-sac.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the cul-de-sac has also been primarily as a connectivity issue, and we've waived it in the past when it came to other developments that have not connected to future developable land. And that's a point I think that should be, all of you aware of, as I'm sure all the board members are, but the other, the audience of others.
Well, to your point, one cul-de-sac was allowed beyond 500 feet, and that was for environmental reasons. But some of us didn't want to extend it, and some people did want to extend it. But that one turned into a disaster anyway, so I can't imagine this board allowing another public way cul-de-sac going beyond the 500 feet. So, did you have another follow-up question on?
Well, if you wouldn't allow a public way, why would you allow a private way? For
Because-
safety's sake.
Well, it's not because if it's not a public roadway, now the town is concerned about it, but it's like anything else. It's if you buy into it, you're taking the risk upon yourself as opposed to living on a road that is a town road.
Don't we have responsibility as citizens of the town to be concerned about future residents in the town? I mean, there'll be children living there, don't we?
There will be, and it is a consideration that there's only one way in. But if there is access from the other side, and if it could be improved on the adjacent parcel of land that allows access, our concern is always if that roadway gets blocked for somehow. So if there is access to the adjacent property, and they may be able to get emergency access from the adjacent property, then that issue sort of goes away. Does anybody else
In
have a-
addition, I think you were pointing out, if you can do loops, it helps for improved
Well, that's
access
just
as well.
internal
Fair enough,
flow,
but,
yeah.
but that also improves the internal flow and the chances of getting a truck around to the left if they can't go to the right, so to speak.
Did you have anything on that?
No, just, the situation with the town-owned property is unclear to me in terms of the status. I know the town has discussed taking it to town meeting to perhaps offer that property for sale, depending on the ownership and then the utility. I'm not sure that that's something that would be a definitive point of access. It depends on what happens with that property.
Well, we could, if it's used as an emergency access, we can always require in the next site plan that it connects to that.
And it does connect to town pond anyway.
What's that?
It is the connection to town pond anyway.
Right.
That road.
Yes.
Deirdre LaRusso, 103 Main Street. Now, I'm not sure if I should be talking about that emergency thing because we're on the other side, but I live across the street from that, and it's full of cars all the time for the MBTA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's really going to be that easy for fire trucks to get around all those cars to get in. I don't think that's going to be as accessible as you think it's going to be, except for in the middle of the night when it's empty.
Well, it's a pretty straight shot through there. I've parked over there myself.
It's not a straight shot. There's all you have to go around all the cars to get to it because I take my dog up there. I mean, you have to go around a lot of cars to get to that area.
If we're talking about access, the fire trucks can go up over the curb and go straight down beyond those 2 rows of parked cars. They can go right down there. They'd have no trouble at all getting into there.
And I think what we'll see in the more detailed plan, what we're asking Evan for is to show that portion of the adjacent site so we can, because I can't envision it,
Yeah.
I don't travel it enough, so that hopefully getting the idea of where the road layout is will be helpful when we see it and it's fully developed.
Okay, and the other comment I have is, I'm not sure if I heard it correctly, the wetlands is, you incorporate that in part of the buildable area that you can use?
When
for
they
that
do their
zone?
count, when they do their count as to how many houses they can fit in there, it's, that land can be counted
Part
towards,
of their lot.
yeah.
Now, was that, like, would that be on my property as well, or is that just because of that zoning?
Well, your property is, well, you're
I'm
in the
just saying
same
if-
zoning, aren't you?
No.
She's in residential.
No, she's,
Residential.
Oh, is it
I'm
all
across the street.
residential on the other side of the street?
yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There was somebody else on your side of the street that was asking if he could get his
Yeah,
property.
right,
in,
right.
uh,
I'm a little
that's what
farther
it
down.
was. The,
But what I'm saying is if I had wetlands and I wanted, and it was a big portion of my property, would I be able to build a bigger home?
well, you still have to stay a certain distance away from the wetlands, and there's a lot coverage percentage that you have to maintain. So you would still have to follow the zoning requirements that are allowed for a residential
So,
lot.
so that's
But
what I'm saying.
you-
This zoning is different, so they can. it's
Yeah,
diff-
they're in a different zoning district than you are.
But the answer is still yes, the wetlands on your property count as part of your property. I mean, you pay taxes
Right,
on
right,
that,
right.
so yeah, it would be part of your lot.
The one little wrinkle in that is you have to have 60% of the minimum lot size has to be non-wetlands. But the other 40% counts toward the total as long as you have 60% of uplands.
Yes.
Paul Colby, 105 Main Street. First, if I remember correctly, based on the prior plan, the density has gone down here, which I really think is a good, that's an improvement. I think it's a good improvement. On it, whether it's the right density and it's still too much, I don't know. But on the road, because I'm still concerned about coming out, if it becomes a private drive, does it mitigate having a traffic study done?
I don't believe it mitigates a traffic study. No, it doesn't mitigate a
Because they're
traffic
still
study.
having, if I calculate right, over 300.
Yeah, they would have to
cars
request a
day.
waiver from that.
Say that?
They would have to request a waiver from
Which I
that.
think they did, which I still think should be done.
Well, we haven't discussed anything yet, so.
But does that change any of the structures of the road coming out?
It would.
Regards to the cul-de-sac, the actual access where,
We would require a certain standard, depending on what the usage of the road is. And this looks like it's going to be like a regular roadway in town. This is not going to be.
well, if I remember correctly, they were actually trying to get it a little smaller, so it's,
Well,
one of the requests was.
No, I think what they were trying to do was to reduce the landscaping strip between the sidewalk and the driveway. Because ordinarily we require a wide, it's an 8 foot? Is it 8 foot? Yeah. Yeah.
3-foot grass berm with a 5-foot wide sidewalk.
No,
No.
no, it's
No.
like 7 or 8 feet for the grass strip.
Right.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
on a 50-foot layout.
Yeah. So if, but that's what they were talking about the last time. They were saying that they were pinched between the wetlands and the drive. And they were asking for a waiver on the landscaping strip so
Right,
that
the
they
reason-
could bring
the
the
reason I asked is
sidewalk right up
yeah.
to it.
I'm still concerned about, because we're right across the street from that, our driveway is across the street from that driveway. And I'm still concerned about light flash and so on from that, and I don't want to I want to make sure that changing it to a private drive doesn't mitigate that. I still
Well,
have the same issues.
we've had issues of that in the past, and if you want, we can see if we can negotiate with the developers to see if there can be some landscaping across from
There
where
was-
the
there was
roadway comes
discussion
out,
about
so it
that.
can shield some of the headlights. Yes, Peter.
Stephen, in direct response to that issue on the Combi's concern, I not only have been there, tried to line up cars as to the effect. I spoke with my abutting applicant, Mr. Ahmed, and if we need to, we will gladly put any type of landscaping in that way because Again, we're trying to react to all the concerns that are brought up. I've been there myself, as a matter of fact, when I was sitting outside your house, Bobby Shannon, the sergeant, pulled up behind me, he thought I was broken down, he offered to help, so.
Anybody else? Bob, no comments from you?
Not yet.
All right, it looks like, oh, yes?
Gary Shoes, 109 Main Street. I'm just curious, are you gonna take any of the trees down that are around the pond, or do you have to keep them so many?
Basically, there's gonna be, almost next to nothing done within 100 feet of the wetlands. And in this case, over in here, it's well, more than 100 feet off the pond.
Thank you.
We'll be getting more details on this. So this is just sort of an introduction to it, even though it is a hearing. We still don't have all the details on it yet.
Should we have to continue it?
Yes, we will have to continue it. Do you want to make a motion to continue to the first?
Do you want to go on to the first, or would you be ready for the first? That's our next meeting, we said is October 1st. It's, how many weeks is that? That's
3 weeks.
3?
Today's the 10th. Oh, that'd be
Yeah,
fine.
1, 2, 3 weeks from tonight. Right. And so far we only have 7:45.
Yeah.
Do we have Crown Castle after that, or do we want to put this first?
We put Crown Castle on as a business item.
Okay, so then this could go.
Oh,
So should
okay.
I say 8 o'clock on this?
Well, if Crown Castle is a business item, then it doesn't have to take up the 7:45
No,
slot.
9 Shires at
Shire.
7:45.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, 8's good.
I'm gonna move to continue the public hearing for, this is for the 108 Main Street, to October 1st at 8 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's continue the public hearing for 106, 108 subdivision, definitive subdivision. So, do you want to start? I know that we've already talked about a lot of stuff, but in case there's something that hasn't been brought up, this may be the time for you to mention something that we may not have captured on that first one.
Well, basically, my
Oh.
major question.
Yeah.
My major question is, seeing as the roadway itself right now is part of a definitive subdivision plan, and that was going to be like first phase of a 3-phase project, and we're going to be now turning that into a site plan
Oh,
for
okay.
review. I guess my question is on the proper procedure, because we currently have an existing hearing for this project, and it's basically going to be the same plan except modified to be a site plan. Are we going to have to start at ground zero for the public hearing process and everything?
It sounds like the subdivision street will not exist.
Right.
So you should just withdraw the application for a subdivision without prejudice.
Yep.
You might, where things are in a state of flux, you might want to delay doing that for a while. But there's a clock ticking based on the date of submission of the subdivision, so as long as it's withdrawn before the board is required to take action. But there will be no subdivision, it's 2 lots, there's no
Yeah.
street. So the application for a subdivision is void, essentially.
Okay.
But in order for them to have a shared drive, Gino, that's a zoning board of appeals issue, isn't it? To have
Well-
a shared drive?
Well, it is unless the zoning enforcement officer rules that splitting it,
Oh.
is okay.
Which there's kind of a precedent for, as Gino mentioned, on Hickory Bend.
Yeah, I guess there was kind of but wasn't that a planned multi-lot subdivision? Isn't that the way that was laid out?
It was, I think it was no, it was, it was an age restricted, remember,
Yes.
it ended up turning into an A&R.
Mhm.
Just like, I think it was 9 lots, and driveways straddle the lot line.
Oh, okay. But,
The bylaw says access through the frontage, and I think within that envelope,
yeah, if it's split, they are getting it, yeah?
flexibility as to how to interpret.
So you should just get some interpretation from the building commissioner on that, and then withdraw it if you have to. So now we're going on to, well, so we're done with the hearing for the 106, 108. Yes,
On the roadway,
We'll probably still have to continue it until.
Peter
he
Diamond,
withdraws it.
84 Seccong Street. You mentioned in the last meeting, or the last session, that they can't work within 100 feet of those ponds. Well, how are they going to develop the road? They can't work within 100 feet of the ponds.
if it's the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, they have to go before the Conservation Commission. We have no control over the boundaries of wetlands.
Okay. And then
Do
the
you
water
guys have
line.
to go before Conservation Commission for that? See,
Does the water line still come down the private road?
Yes, it would.
It would, okay. And then the last question, you mentioned about the clock ticking on the subdivision. Could you comment on that?
we have to have a decision with a certain period of time of when they submit their subdivision. So if we don't respond, it would be allowed as they plan it. So we have to either approve it or deny it.
And what's that time frame?
And the time frame is, Betsy? 135 days.
Thank you.
So it's got a ways to go, and they'll probably withdraw it because I'm sure that they're going to want to start getting in through their private way there. Yes, Peter?
Steve, in response to that, unless continued by agreement?
Unless continued, but I suspected that within 135 days that you probably want to finish this up, right?
Before the next meeting.
Yeah.
Steve, are those calendar days or business days?
I believe they're calendar days, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now that assumes that we have a complete filing in terms of elevations and all the necessary information, engineering information.
If they just submitted this and we allowed it, it would go with what they've submitted.
And that's not
Unless we
acceptable.
say, that's not acceptable,
Well,
you
that's
have
what-
it, we would have
that's
to
what we
see,
need to
yeah.
say. Because we have some elevations here that are a concern, so we need to be very clear in terms of when that clock starts.
Okay, so the,
So I think we-
Betsy, you're gonna have to keep track of this 109, 106, 108 subdivision.
But I think for
plan.
tonight, we have to continue the hearing because it hasn't been withdrawn.
Right, right. So we'll continue it to the next night when we have the,
So you're ready to
the
vote.
the other
You know what you
hearings
want.
for the site plans. Yes.
I'm just curious, are there, is the architecture, is the same architecture going to be used in both subdivision? Is that the same houses?
The identical plan that is shown here tonight is exactly, we decided to collaborate with a consistent look down to single families all around.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Peter Diamond, 114. Are these plans going to be available in this office before the next meeting?
Well, you mean the complete set of plans? I don't know if are you guys gonna have a complete set of plans for the next hearing in 3 weeks?
Yes.
Absolutely. They will be in this office before that point. You
Okay.
won't be able to take them out if that's what you're
No, no, but they'll be available for review?
Yeah, you could look at them, yeah. It
So-
is part of the public record.
So that includes the elevations and all those details? Yes?
Basically, everything that was detailed in PSC's comments will be addressed on the revised plans.
Okay, do we have a continuation for this? Oh, did you have something to do before we do this?
Well, so we're talking about
We're doing
106.
No,
We're talking,
Or
we've already
106,
continued
108.
108. We're talking about the
So you're
subdivision.
still on 106, 108?
Yeah,
Yes,
we have to
106,
continue
108.
the subdivision.
Right. All right, so I move to continue the public hearing for 106, 108 Main Street to October 1st,
Definitive subdivision.
definitive subdivision, thank you, till October 1st at 8:15 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 2 of them done. I can't imagine many more details coming up on this hearing, which is 106 Main Street site plan, the continuation. So is there anything new that's going to be over on the 106 side?
Well, we're gonna loop the road around.
Well, potentially, yeah.
Potentially, yes.
You have to open the public hearing, Steve.
Yeah, we didn't, that's what I couldn't remember. We didn't open it last time?
Oh, didn't we open this one?
Didn't we?
You open it, we have to open the continued public hearing.
Oh, didn't I say that we were continuing the public
I thought
hearing?
he did, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I said we are continuing the public hearing, yeah. So, is that all the difference that you think that's gonna come through? Other than that, there's no more details that you're gonna be able to discuss tonight?
At the moment, no.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, it's the same issue that we've had with everything, that these plans are so new, we have no details. So we can't ask any detailed questions if we don't know what their details are going to be. Yeah, did you have a question?
I was just curious, because we asked the question a couple of times, where's the road water going, and it said it's going onto the road. Well, where does it go after it goes on the road? You know,
Into the ground.
It,
They're going to have galleys underneath their driveway, and it will go into the ground.
and so it'll perk.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You're considering the comment to put a loop around here, right?
Yep.
Is there any way you could consider putting a loop over here, because that would tend to mitigate some of the issues that we were discussing about parking and whatnot, access vehicles. Right now, obviously, that's a problem.
Yep.
But something to think about, that's all. If you can drive across this, you can drive across that, right?
It's an interesting
Well,
thought, even if
Walter-
it was something gravel or something that's not primary use, but there as a
I mean,
safety
Yeah.
access.
If you did that, you might not even need the cul-de-sac, the roundabout here. Just a thought. I don't know.
Well, it seems to me, though, as though, this is an environmentally sensitive area, so, putting more asphalt down
But it doesn't have to
probably
be
is.
Well,
asphalt.
no, but
It
if
could
you-
be gravel.
Well,
If you're,
It's a
if
secondary.
you're
could be, yeah.
reducing, just a thought, if you're reducing this circle to a roadway, you're saving asphalt.
And it's also a place where people could park, I mean, you get a few people having a function and,
Just a thought, I
It's,
mean,
and if I may, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman, sorry.
yep, go right ahead.
As Jeff and I both know from our days on the Board of Health, that all that's the difference underneath is the type of pipe to, what is it, Schedule 40 or? Right,
to take the weight,
right.
yeah.
You just have to recompute all the impervious and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's a good comment, and for the next 3 weeks, I'll guarantee you that we'll find a way to at least,
Think about it, yeah,
Right.
okay.
Excuse me, I have a question. So you're saying you're gonna go over where the septic is?
Well, we don't know all the details yet.
Wait, but we can't do that in our own property.
absolutely you can.
You can.
I could
I'm
not,
sorry. Didn't- we got-
Yeah. You,
I couldn't put an above-ground pool over
they-
my septic system. I
No,
wasn't
pools
allowed
are-
to.
pool is-
yeah, a pool is heavier than a car is.
Pool is a structure.
Yeah,
Structure's not allowed to be
You can
built.
put pavement over a septic system?
because you can dig through pavement, but you couldn't, if you had a problem with your septic, you're not gonna dig through your pool to get to it, so it's considered more of a,
They are also required to construct the septic system to a standard that's higher than you would have in your backyard. They're talking about using different piping and everything to access the septic.
The fire trucks, pretty heavy. They have to go over, what if they had to go over them?
It's not an issue.
No?
I don't know what the exact standards are. That's why we have an engineer sitting here.
Peter Diamond, 114. Is this still, affordable housing is still going to be 1 in 10?
There's going to have to be affordable housing, yes.
1 in 10?
Yeah, well, that's the way it is, right. It's 10%, right.
Every 10th year.
Right.
Mr.
So, I know the last time we asked, where's the public housing? And we were told what buildings the public housing would be in, the affordable housing would be in. But this is a new plan. That question will definitely come up again when we have the detailed plan.
I have a comment.
Yep.
Peter Diamond, 84 Seacom Street. You mentioned the Medfield project, and the Medfield project does have two ways in. So there
Right.
is easy access for emergency vehicles. I see this as a nightmare for emergency vehicles to get into.
Well,
You're
that's
talking
why we
about
like having the emergency access on the side. Look at the H. Olive Day School. The H. Olive Day School has one access in. There is an emergency access from from Medway
Street.
Medway Street. Yeah.
Medway Street.
So, but it is chained off, so no one can go in and out that
And
way.
it's a grass, it's not a asphalt.
And also on Medfield, there is green space over there. I've been through that. In the middle of the whole development, there is some green space.
I think that there's more green space here than there is left in Medfield. I don't think there's very much green space left in Medfield.
The build out of Lot 27, everything that, everybody thought that whole middle area was gonna be a park.
It's not.
Well, there's almost 20 housing units going into that, and that's all you're gonna see is buildings.
And my last comment is this area's been here for over 50 years with 10 families. And does the board feel that it's the best interest of the town to bring 50 more in that little area? And
It's
a
not
small
something
town
for our
community.
review.
Excuse me?
It's not something for our review.
They're asking for special permission, though. So it's not a...
They're allowed by right to have the density that they're proposing for here. That was
Why are we
voted on
asking
at
for a
town
special
meeting to
permit?
allow this kind of density in this area.
Then why is there a special permit application?
Well, the special permits for the controls of certain aspects of it. We can't restrict them from that density, but we can restrict the layout of the roadways, the lighting that they're going to have, whether or not it impedes on the abutting properties. There's a list of things that we can review on a special
And
permit.
one of them's is strictly residential, isn't it? Because
And-
it's not a listed use for that property.
I
It
believe this
with
is.
residential above and commercial below, as my father
No,
pointed
that's
out.
that's in the business core district. That's not in this zoning district.
Well, I'll
That's
have to-
only in the business core.
I guess we need to be explained what's the difference between business
Well, the
core
business
and business.
core-
Yeah, the B1
Yeah,
district is
board.
divided into two sections. The west section, essentially from Rockwood Road west towards Franklin, is the business core. And from Rockwood Road down is the non-business core, and that's what Steve is referring to.
I believe it's the other road that's next to
Carlson
Dunkin'
Circle.
Donuts.
Yeah,
Carson
Circle.
Circle. It's
Carlson
from
Circle. I thought it
Carson
was
Circle
Carlson
down
Circle
is.
down.
So
Yeah.
I can read this in the zoning bylaws that
Yes,
residential
yes.
is
Yes.
allowed in there at this
Yes.
density?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But to your point,
Oh.
I think just for a balanced discussion, if there are practical concerns with
Mhm.
a certain density, then those are legitimate points to bring up in this forum, and they should be taken into consideration in terms of coming up with a final plan that's acceptable to this board.
You can look in the zoning, if you are going to look up the zoning, you can look at what we have to consider when we look at a special permit. There's a list of considerations that we have to look at.
I just find it hard to believe there's been 10 families there for 50-plus years, and now we want to put 50 more in that little area. You feel that's the best interest for the town?
The town had made presentations at town meeting about increasing the density in the B1 district. And it passed town
I know,
meeting.
I'm sure if all these people were there, we would have been voting no for it.
Well, you could
So
have
this-
gone there. I mean, it's
I know, we
publicly
just didn't
noticed
know
and it's
about
in
it.
the
They stopped
warrants.
doing the
and-
mailings on the meetings. And, I think they just started picking that up again. I think Paul had a comment.
No, I just want to make sure, because there is, the question is, we're looking at these plans and so on, so when you get into the zoning and what's possible, the question is, what are the alternative things that could go in there? And some of those may not actually be as nice as residential. And so one of the things I think the density is a really important issue. But one of the things I want to point out is that this has moved from duplex condos in an apartment building with higher density to single-family units. We're making progress here. And so I want to make sure that we continue that progress, and that's the key point. So I think the main question is it the appropriate density? But I want to, it's moving in the right direction, that's, and I think that it has to be acknowledged.
Anybody else? Yes.
Can I address Mr. Diamond's comment?
Sure.
Believe it or not, I love the Old Medfield Square project, and myself and my 15-year-old went out there with literally a measuring wheel. We wheeled it off, everything else, try to find a way to actually replicate that on my site at 106 Main Street. It just couldn't work because of one reason only. That section of Medfield has sewer. And that's the big problem there. That's the reason why you might see a beautiful town green down in between a couple of the rows, not the front ones that you can see from 27. But if they had to accommodate septic in all that area, you'd see a very different project. That's all. But I agree with you totally. Beautiful project, just doesn't fit in Norfolk.
I agree with Paul. I mean, the apartment building thing completely scared me. It just did not seem like it would fit in Norfolk.
Use the microphone, please.
Sorry. Deirdre LaRusso, 103 Main Street. I am happier with single houses. I mean, I think there are a lot jammed into a small area. I do feel that. And, you know, I guess if it was my property, I might want to do the same thing, get as many and sell as many as I could. But for this kind of a town, the density, I feel, is a huge issue, and the traffic. The traffic between Dunkin' Donuts and the train, it's really not. Main Street's tough at certain times. Yeah, and that's true. But yeah, I think we are making progress. The single-family houses are much better than apartment buildings and/or duplexes, in my opinion. But I think a traffic study would be a good thing, and I think the density, I don't know if it can be looked at or not.
Okay, we're going to continue this one to the same day. Okay, do we have a motion? This is 8:30? Is that?
8:30.
Jeff's turn.
Okay, yeah.
I move to continue the public hearing for 106 Main Street to October 1st at 8:30.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, it's on in here, isn't it, huh? Jeepers.
Did we have some minutes?
Yeah, there is a set of minutes in here.
Oh, there is. Oh, okay.
Take a break, Steve.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, we're going to take a little break. What, about a 10-minute break?
Sure.
10-minute
Sure,
break.
okay.
Okay. Now, no one's here for the associate member?
Greg
couldn't make
Greg
it tonight.
couldn't
Well, he
make
told us
it.
that in advance.
Oh, okay.
And so I told Andrew you guys to come. What do you want to do about that? I mean, do we still want to do interviews? Do you just want to make your appointment, let the selectmen do their appointment?
Well, we should talk to both of them. If there's more than one person, we really should have them come before us. That's just the way I feel about it. So, we had minute meetings, Walter.
Yes, in this package.
Sorry, did you want to talk to Evan about 9 Shire Drive?
Oh.
He wasn't here when we discussed it. He was downstairs.
Oh, that's true. So you're the
design that before
designer
October
of
1st, too.
9 Shire Drive, right?
Yeah.
Our question has to do with the stacking or the layout of the parking lot. There's,
We just.
oh, you hadn't seen this until
Just
today,
today
right?
I got
Yeah.
the email.
Do-
Basically, as far as I can see, Bob said he would like to see some type of a layout of the parking. However, he does say because it is a storage area, he does not feel that we have to fully comply with the regulations for a parking lot as like the landscape islands and the landscaping for 10 spots, or even the travel way with the parking area. But he does believe that the intent of the bylaw shows that there should be some type of layout for parking.
Yeah, how about if because stacked parking was part of the discussion, right?
Yep.
So how about if you have one section that's long-term storage, where you can stack them, you know that they're not going to be moved for 6 months, and someplace else that is probably shorter term that can be laid out as if it was a regular parking lot that people could go in and out of,
I really have no issue with that. I mean, I originally had the plan designed with designated parking areas, just more to give an idea of how many we could fit on the property in an orderly fashion and provide access to all the vehicles. And it came out to 114. And, under the zoning, he's only allowed 150 max for the entire 2 lots, because it's considered one project. But there was one other issue in his letter that appears to be, that he brought up, and that was the issue with the setback to residential.
Who was it that had the potential argument for that? Was that
Gino.
you, Tom, or was
Gino,
it
I
Gino?
think.
Oh,
Well, the only way around, the planning board can't adjust that.
No, that's a
You have to
zoning.
go to ZBA. And the justification, you could probably do it partially on the shape of the lot, because, I mean, that's one of the things for a variance. But also the fact that there is no actual residential use there now or in the future, because it's conservation land, state-owned land, that, so the purpose, the intent of the zoning would still be maintained even by reducing that 50 feet.
Yeah.
And you already have, I think,
We-
20
well,
20
we-
to 30.
If you look 2 sections up in the zoning above that, it says, properties in commercial abutting residential zone, you've got to maintain a 30-foot wide landscaped area, which is what we did. We said, okay, we came in 30 feet, said, here's where we can start the parking. And I just completely missed the 50-foot setback requirement.
I did too.
And then when I was looking at it too, I'm also looking going, well, if there's supposed to be a 30-foot landscape buffer, to be maintained, then how come the drainage swale across the back of all those properties is only 10 feet off the property line?
Well, it says no use including parking, driveways, paving,
Sidewalks.
sidewalks.
And stuff.
So it seemed to indicate hardscape type things, not
No. Okay.
other uses. So.
If I may comment on that, I remember when the credit union on the corner here at the other roundabout first came up, and I think they originally had to go to a variance because even though they didn't have a structure, there was a question because I think they had either drainage or septic or something underneath within the required setback at that point. But, I mean, I think you guys mentioned it, I wasn't at the table at the time, but, if there ever was a topography or whatever, the conditions that a ZBA can grant a variance,
Oh, yeah.
it exists.
Okay. Because it was one of those, I had just left the town hall and gone home, and 10 minutes later, I get this email from Bob, and I just submitted the application for the zoning board of appeals hearing for the special permits. And I'm like, I gotta revise the plan. That means I gotta withdraw my application.
well, revising the plans only if you have to change the
layout.
The layout, with the setback. As far as we're concerned, the only change would be something fairly minor, and that has to do with if you could find some way to designate sections of parking.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. I mean, the layout of the parking is pretty easy, actually, I think.
Yeah.
Anything for you, Jeff? Walter?
No.
Michelle? All set?
Okay.
There you go.
So-
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
So the public hearing next time is, will it be a site plan and a special permit?
Reopening.
Reopening the
The
site
site
plan?
plan.
Yeah, reopening the site plan, and because we may just reopen the site plan to incorporate whatever you come up with.
I think we had decided the opposite, that we were just gonna re-advertise both.
Yes.
The cleanest. Doesn't cost you anything in terms of dollars, time, or anything else. You just advertise a new site plan, you advertise special permit
Bless you.
on the same night at the same time.
And you have enough time, because it's 3 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So there'll really be no decision rendered on the site plan that's here now. It'll be a decision on any modifications you make to it.
Okay. That makes it easier.
Okay. I think we've reached the
Safer
bottom of
for
our
you,
list.
because nobody
Oh,
can challenge
oh,
it.
there
Well, we
is
have-
something else.
Meeting minutes?
Meeting minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And one other point before I get to the meeting minutes. A couple of weeks ago, I went on the mass.gov website and pulled off a list of, this is just for information, list of 12 applicants for medical marijuana within the county of Norfolk.
No kidding.
Anything here?
Well, you can look at the list.
I
And,
want to see the list.
I'm just gonna start with some vouchers, hoping.
oh, yeah, you should. This is, by the way, you can take that back. I read them all.
Perfect. Wasn't anything
Dentist
exciting,
know
was
that.
it?
I don't know.
Gino Carlucci, yeah.
Oh, it doesn't say
doesn't
what
say
town
Say
they're
what
in.
town?
No, it doesn't. I would have included that if I knew.
But I know one.
They were only listed by county, so I really
Yeah.
couldn't get a town.
Must all be in Cohasset.
The Framingham Industrial Park
Milton.
off
I know.
Route 9 is
East
the actual
ones.
proposal of the old Staples building.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
Do you know?
You know, the
Framingham.
Framingham Industrial Park off where Bose is and
Yeah, yeah,
Staples.
Yeah.
That's an area, and there's an actual proposal in the old Staples building to put one there.
Wow, that's a big place.
Yes, it is a big place. It's a marijuana factory.
Probably be growing it in there too. Well, and this is just so far, or is the
No, they
is
had
the
to be in.
deadline?
They had to be, and there was a deadline. That's it. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
that's the list for Norfolk County.
But remember, there were over 100 of them, and there's only 35 available
Yes,
initially.
yes. And they were listed by county. So if you go on the mass.gov website / medical marijuana, you can get the complete list.
Well, this was the cheap app, though. The next round is the big dollars.
So these are the towns. These are in the towns that didn't put that 1-year moratorium on.
Obviously, because why would they bother?
Yeah.
Oh, there is one thing I wanted to bring up. I asked Tom to look at something because what was the name of the subdivision?
Sandy Knoll.
Sandy Knoll subdivision. We had a complaint from not a butter, someone that lived on the next street over. He was complaining about some earthwork going on over in the Sandy Knoll subdivision.
Yeah.
Now, we've known that this has been an issue for a long time. So I asked Tom to look at it and see if he could figure out if there's been some either material trucked in or taken out. So, in a nutshell, let them know what it was that you sent me.
Well, we sent, I guess we hand-delivered it to the office because we couldn't find an email. We hand-delivered a memo back on the 28th, and Dave went out and took a look at the subdivision, and there's no change in the elevation of the road or anything like that. I mean, you'd have to re-engineer the whole thing to do that. It does appear that one lot, which is indicated by station on the second page here, but it's also lot 3A. If you look at the subdivision plan, Not sure the subdivision plan makes a lot of sense, because the house is shown on existing ground, which is 20 feet above the roadway, and the driveway is about 70 feet long. So it's over a 25% slope if you were to put the house where it is. So they kind of overcompensated, and they brought the ground back level from the road through the whole lot. And it's beautiful sand and gravel, so that might have been part of the deal. A subdivision plan, the location of houses and that type of thing, where it's not an open space plan, it's kind of illustrative. You know, it shows that a house can fit on the lot, but the final grading isn't there. So I think the only issue maybe is that as part of the subdivision plan, there were estimates made and a gravel removal permit given, A, for the lot and B, for the subdivision. So I would think, having taken all this material out of here, they're probably over the limit of what they included as a gravel removal figure. Now, the only way to really establish that quantitatively is to do an interim survey of the property and compare the as-built grades with what was shown on the plan and figure out the volume. There's an expense to that, you know. Clearly, because the trees are gone and everything else has gone down to 20 feet, they clearly cleared the lot prior to having a building permit for the house. But with the 8-year zoning freeze and everything on the subdivision, I'm not sure where they sit with that. But it's possible they're grandfathered with respect to that. So that's kind of what we saw. Most of the lots look like they're supposed to look. The road certainly is in the right place.
Is this Silver Fox?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It is pretty clear that one lot was cleared and brought down in elevation by about 20 feet, but that's primarily on one of the lots, so that's it.
Well, my recollection is that those houses were supposed to be built at a relatively high elevation, because I remember that they were required to have a French drain at the bottom of their driveway to catch the water coming down the slope of their driveways. Do you remember that, right? Yeah. So they've obviously taken some land out of there.
Yeah.
Was this when Dave was on the board and we talked about a pipe going through, or was that a different subdivision?
I don't remember
No,
that.
Steve is right, I think. There were under drain. We were concerned about,
running out onto the road.
Yeah. But, the house as literally shown probably couldn't have been constructed. You couldn't have a 20-foot grade change on a 70-foot driveway. So as part of a building permit plan, that would have to be lowered. It's just, this was done without benefit of a building permit plan, and I would surmise that the total quantity of earth was probably greater than they had a permit to remove. As far as the subdivision is being built correctly. The road and utilities are right.
Tell me this, Tom, under the earth removal permit, were they required to keep logs?
They're always required to
I
keep
think that's
logs.
part of the process.
But
of the,
that was the next question.
I mean, on this or on any subdivision, the only way you can really tell how much earth is being removed is to do an interim as-built survey, and that's normally not done in subdivisions. I guess in this case, well, I can't speculate as to why the concern was raised by the neighbor, but our evaluation is that in one lot, there was earth removed, which wasn't shown on the plan. Beyond that?
Well, I'm wondering whether or not the neighbor is concerned about those lots where it does seem as though they were lowered. But on the other side of the street, it appears like they've got some sort of a earth movement facility going on over there. I know they're selling loam.
And that's in Franklin, right?
Is that
Isn't it?
Franklin?
I get the impression there's some land in Norfolk and some land in
It's
Franklin.
right.
Didn't they have to hook into Franklin or something?
It's
for
right on
sewer
the,
or something?
Somebody,
If you look at the last page of your memo, you'll see a sign, a piece of equipment there.
is it in here?
I didn't know that we had a memo
I didn't
here.
know we had either.
Yeah.
Ah, here we are.
If
Yes.
you notice the sign behind the piece of equipment.
Fisbo.
It's home for sale.
Oh, I saw for sale by owners.
Oh, maybe you're right. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there is another sign down there.
And
Yeah,
I
I saw
I
that
have bad
sign.
eyesight.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I misread that. But there is a sign at the entrance to the site.
yeah.
Right church, wrong pew.
There's another sign.
On the west side. I don't know what direction I'm facing. when I
If
drive
you're
there.
coming in, Silver Fox West is on the left.
Okay, okay.
So the lot where the extra soil was removed is on the right.
Mhm.
There's a lot of other earthwork in the subdivision, but it was authorized, specifically shown on the plan. Like going in on the left side, there was a former borrow pit or something. There's beautiful sand there. So somebody at some point excavated it, and the subdivision plan shows that borrow pit being raised by about 10 to 15 feet, and they did that. There's a lot of earthwork there, but most of it is authorized by the plan.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember when the concerned abutter was in, I thought it was more about the time and the disruption.
I think it was
More
both.
than
I think
anything.
it was both. I think it was the time, and he was concerned that there was some potential illegal operation going on.
Well,
With the
there
removal
was
of the-
no construction activity the day we went out there, which was August 28th or something. What happens other than that?
But that area where they're selling the loam, is that Norfolk or is that Franklin?
I would bet it's across the street.
I don't know where they're selling it. There's a sign at the entrance to the subdivision that
So I think that's his concern.
Has
He
a
hasn't
name and
seen
number.
any development of houses. It's been sitting as a open dirt field for years, and yet there's all this construction activity, moving earth at odd hours, and really what is going on this site? Do they really have intention to build, or are they really just doing a sand and gravel pit?
Right.
Well, are we outside the time frame where they have to construct those houses?
They had the extension, so when they came to speak, they were not they were still within their.
There
When
was
they
still
came
quite-
here.
There was still quite a bit of time. Yeah, that wasn't that long
It
ago.
wasn't that long ago. They were,
Right.
still had another like couple years or 4
Yeah.
years or something,
Yeah.
something.
Right. There were two
significant.
extensions to the Permit Extension Act. I think we visited Tom and I.
4 years.
Yeah.
Right, so,
Oh, so that Extension Act was extended?
twice,
Yes.
well, yeah,
Oh.
from
Yeah.
two and then another.
So they're within their
Well,
right,
the
but
Milton guys did that.
this doesn't look like they have any intention of. They're within their right, but what are their intentions? 'Cause I think
Well, didn't they provide us a letter saying that their intention was to finish the subdivision?
Yeah, but there's only 4 houses in Norfolk. They haven't built one of them yet.
Well, fair enough, but I mean, they provided a letter, I think, that declared what their intentions were.
They got one, remember?
Oh, the one that's on the line.
That was not a pleasant experience.
Well, I mean, what's the accepted practice in terms of the timing for a building permit? You know, when an earth removal permit is active? I mean,
I don't think there's really a sunset.
Actually, that's a good question, Jeff.
Is that the
Does the Permit
discretion?
Extension Act apply to earth removal too?
Any local permit.
Right, okay,
Well,
so. But why would you have sat out this last run-up? Especially.
You would have
with-
thought you'd want to be ready right now to
Right,
sell.
absolutely,
Yeah.
no, you would have been ready 4 months ago to
Yeah.
sell.
right.
Michelle could have ended up over there.
That's why it kind of raises a bit of a flag.
So, what do you think we should do with this guy? Anyone have any suggestions?
well, just back to my question about a building permit. I mean, is that, if you take it literally, I mean, it's when, you know, concrete, you know, nails and
But the
And
Permit
timbers
Extension
and-
Act applies to the subdivision, so that's the road and the infrastructure. The lots could sit there, they could get a building permit whenever they feel like it, 20 years from now.
Yeah.
So in terms of getting an earth removal permit and using that permit over an extended period of time and never pulling a building permit, is that can't be typical. I mean, I'm not sure if there's anything.
I don't
That-
think there's any relationship between the two. I mean, once you create a subdivision lot, you can build on it today, or you can build on it 30, 40 years from now. It's
But you
just-
can't have a mining operation on the lot.
But, and I think that's what we were asking Tom to weigh in on, and I don't think we have anything conclusive showing that they're doing that. I mean,
If you go over there, it kind of looks like a
Well,
mining
I
op.
know.
There
I
are
know.
there are multiple piles of different
know.
kinds of material.
No, but in the vein from Jeff, the point is this, is I think the only permit that applies right now is a earth removal permit, okay? Depending on when or the dates and how it also relates to not once but twice Permit Extension Act is probably the only cudgel you have here. And what those dates are,
Well, you know,
2017.
really?
yeah, so about 4 years. Right. That sounds about right.
so on the basis that it applies, the only issue is that they probably did not adhere to the volume included on the subdivision plan, which is what the permit was granted for. It was about, from memory, 8,000 cubic yards for the road, 8,000 for the lots. So I would guess, having taken a lot of earth out of this particular lot, they're probably over the 8,000 or so for which the earth removal permit was granted.
So therefore, you'd need a new earth removal permit, of which you could condition.
I think it's at the discretion of the planning board, who's now the earth removal permit granting authority, what action you wish to take with respect to the matter. You know, you could do nothing. You could ask for a survey of what's there to quantify what has been taken out. And I guess in an extreme case, you could.
We could ask them for their logs.
You could.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Or,
to do
you know,
that.
their logs, or ask them to document, however they choose to do it, the volume of earth that's been removed, and is that consistent with the gravel removal permit?
Okay.
Might be-
Do you have that, Betsy? Oh, okay. So that's what we'll do. Is that okay with
Send a
everybody?
letter?
Yeah. We'll send a letter asking them to document it.
Okay. And this
And
way.
if that doesn't go anywhere, then we'll drag them in here.
And at least we have reacted to the concerns of the abutter.
Right.
Yeah, and we can let him know that we're requesting that from him. It's the first step.
Do you think we should CC the abutter on it?
Excuse me.
We don't usually CC
Maybe
abutters on
not.
things like that.
Okay.
I can let him know. I've got his
That's fine.
email address. I'll just let him know
Yeah.
that we've contacted the contractor
Okay.
or the
Yeah,
applicant.
there's no reason to stoke the
No,
flames here.
no.
You know, so.
I
Definitely
have
tell
a set of minutes that
Oh, yeah.
I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the August
Well, you
27th.
can make that
meeting.
motion.
All right, I move to accept the minutes of the planning board meeting on Tuesday, August 27th,
I'll second that.
2013.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to close, or do we have something else?
I'll make that motion to close, not hearing something else.
All right, at
Just,
10:15.
Steve and I attended the meeting regarding paddocks and corrals and
Oh.
the access to the trails. I haven't heard anything more about that.
I haven't either. They may not have met since then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has the Concom met since Jeff and I were there?
I think they're,
They were going to be talking about
Tomorrow,
our
right?
request. Oh, tomorrow.
Okay.
So could you remind Marie that they're supposed to discuss the trails over at paddocks and corrals?
I mean, there were some. I mean, maybe we should just update everyone. And there were some thoughts by at least one member of the Concom that some parking provisions should be made there. So, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what the results are of this more detailed assessment that they're doing.
I had brought up I don't like the idea of putting parking in there because people from the stables are going to use all the parking all the time.
You know, I have to plead ignorance because you guys have been the point men on that deal.
But you're
so-
familiar with the site.
No, I was, but you know, the hardest thing is driving through there and getting a reference point without, it's,
Yeah.
I mean, I consider myself a pretty good study with a plan, and I couldn't, because The roads aren't where the roads are gonna be. So I couldn't figure it out, to be honest with you.
It is difficult. It's confusing. It's sort of off the first roundabout is how to fight. If you take what looks like.
But
just
I
a
went
dirt
all the way
road.
down to the existing like gravel drive into to the left of the existing stable building or whatever that
The
building
general
is.
location.
And even then, it was best guesstimate. That's all, you know.
Yep.
So I have to defer to you guys. You've been on the point for these.
Well, hopefully at some point they'll stake it, you know, I mean, at some point they have to stake that, right, that roadway.
Oh, and did we ever mention the visit we made to Al's Welding? Did we bring that up at a meeting?
I can't remember.
Yeah, we did last time, I
Oh, was it?
remember. I think,
Did
I
we
think
bring
we
it up?
did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right. We touched on it. He was going to go back. We hoped to find 2 lots there, but there wasn't.
Right,
Peter
and
was trying
he
to
was gonna
talk him
come
to
back
build a
in.
house.
He was going to come back in with a revision to.
But he hasn't been here yet.
No,
so
he
I
hasn't. No,
think
right.
Maybe he got a new contract to
Nah,
keep
they-
his garage
That's
going.
right. Keep the welding contract on. Different topic. Anybody heard anything? What's going on with Southwood? I had heard that Hoboken had come in and talked to the town about again over 55 housing down there. But
That would be wonderful. I'd be thrilled with 55 housing. We did that back in 2006 for Pulte.
I personally would not. But that's
Why?
Because I think that's the last undeveloped site in the town that could really sustain a large commercial development.
Oh, commercial.
Yeah.
But what about a mix?
Well, his initial proposal 2 or 3 years ago was housing and retail complex and also office space and what.
But I
and-
thought it was deferred retail, though.
Yeah, well, that's the point. He builds the housing and walks away, and so.
Yeah, that was everyone's major concern.
But doesn't the C6 now exist by right because we changed zoning based on the 300-plus units that Pulte considered?
I don't think so. I think he still needs the zoning changed in order to put that density of housing that he wants to put in there. At any rate, has anybody heard anything about it? I've heard he's come
I
back.
probably heard what you heard. That
We heard a rumor,
Yeah.
but I think we spoke to the Board of Selectmen, and they hadn't heard anything either.
Tell me this, though.
Yeah.
And just plain devil's advocate, I don't have an opinion one way or the other on that particular corridor. I think we've done some, great strides down on, 1A, 115 further down.
Yes.
But, I mean, the beauty of at least part of that site, I mean, that's a big site. So if you went, excuse me, Michelle, I don't mean to be blocking you out. The over 55 is pretty successful for towns from at least a tax base standpoint. It's not taxing the school
Yeah,
committee
I
systems
understand.
and things
Doesn't
like
put a
that.
burden on services, yeah.
Right, and things like that. Maybe a few more ambulance runs, which I understand, but retail is just not a winner from a development standpoint right now. You don't get the rents to justify the construction costs. So, in absence of that, I kind of support.
Well, you
the
weren't talking
over
about
50.
retail.
I'm not talking about. I'm talking about commercial. I mean, the
Commercial
allowed
such
uses.
as-
The allowed uses of the C6 include such things as biomedical, for example.
Right.
Remember a couple of years ago when Kraft was talking about doing some biomedical down there, we changed the zoning to include biomedical in there, and that's only one of a dozen allowed uses, commercial uses in there.
Right.
And I still hold out hope that we can attract some big outfit to come in there and find the property attractive enough to pay the cleanup costs and build something. So maybe I'm whistling in the dark on that one, but that's my hope.
No, I haven't heard anything new. But, I mean, no matter what, you're looking at a small package treatment plant.
Oh, of course.
For anything that goes there.
Of course, yeah.
Maybe if one could offset the cost of the other to attract the corporate client and find a way to have a mixture, because there's a lot of land to play with up.
Oh, there sure is. There's about, 87 acres, I think, something like that.
Okay.
It's a lot of land, yeah. At any rate, okay, that's all I had.
So I have a motion outstanding.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.